Welcome back to Ronin Recap. Now on to the next chapter.
Everyone present was a mathematician, and they knew very well that mathematics could not be achieved overnight. It required years of hard study. To solve Joe's conjecture, a problem that had troubled the world for more than a decade, one had to accumulate deep mathematical knowledge. This was obviously not something a young man in his 20s could do. A brat like him actually solved Joe's conjecture? Asked Yamamoto Jiro with a sneer. I'm afraid this was purposefully organized by Nation. The crowd frowned at his words. They all traveled thousands of miles just to listen to this report. If it was just a farce in the end, it would not be worth it. Jeffrey also sighed and said, let's hear it first. Clearly, Jeffrey did not think Lin Fan would be successful. Lin Fan was just too young. Even the PhD students under him were much older than Lin Fan. At the edge of the auditorium, Nia Junjiang of Huaqing University stared at Lin Fan and said, I'd like to see how you're going to answer Joe's conjecture. Nia Junjiang had made a lot of preparations for this year's mathematical modeling competition. He thought the higher education cup would be his, but it was suddenly snatched away by Lin Fan, who did not even participate in the oral defense. From Nia Junjiang's point of view, the reason why the judges gave Lin Fan the higher education cup was that there were rumors that he had solved Joe's conjecture. Nia Junjiang had always been brooding over this. Therefore, he specially came to Jiangbei from Jingbei yesterday afternoon. His goal was to personally see if Lin Fan had solved Joe's conjecture. If he had not, then regarding the National Mathematical Modeling Competition, perhaps he would have to ask for an explanation. In the middle of the hall, Hu Tian closed her notebook and her beautiful eyes fell on Lin Fan. She muttered in her heart, Lin Fan, how are you going to explain it? At that moment, Lin Fan, who was standing on the stage, finally opened his mouth and said, hello everyone. My name is Lin Fan. Next, I'll explain Joe's conjecture in detail. Then, Lin Fan did not say anything more. He went to the electronic board and began to write down the detailed solution to Joe's conjecture. This was a major feature of mathematics reports. Even though some of them did not understand the same language and words, the numbers and symbols were universal. Pi-mp, 22n, carat pi-mp, 22n1, equals 2n carat 1. A. Pi-mp, 22n, equals 2n plus 1 carat n1. At the start, the mathematicians were still suspicious of Lin Fan and looked down on him. However, as he wrote down the calculation step by step, everyone quickly put away their contempt and became serious. The group of mathematicians, from time to time, took out sheets of paper and pens to calculate. They would occasionally show a look of realization and even nod. After writing down hundreds of detailed calculations, Lin Fan finally came up with the final answer. Therefore, when 2 carat, 2 to the power of n, p less than 2 carat, n plus 1, and p is 2 carat, n plus 1, minus 1 as a prime number. Joe's conjecture was finally proven. Under normal circumstances, a report would have ended here. However, Lin Fan did not stop. On the contrary, his writing speed increased. 6n plus mn, dash 1 equals 6n plus 1 6m1. X equals slash equals 6nm plus mn. 6x1 equals q. All the mathematicians present were prepared to clap and cheer. However, after seeing this scene, they were all stunned. Why isn't Lin Fan coming down yet? Zhang Yang asked, puzzled. He's solving the twin prime number conjecture? This. Hu Chuan's eyes widened. Professor Barnardin's cloudy eyes brightened slightly, and his expression became more focused. He's solving the twin prime number conjecture on the spot? Lancelot was surprised. Professor Edison and the others must be regretting not coming to Nation, Jeffrey said with a smile. Do you think he can successfully answer it? Lancelot asked. Who knows? No one can guarantee that anyone can solve this difficult problem. However, we can still look forward to it, Jeffrey said. That's right. Lancelot nodded. Beside him, Yamamoto Jiro also could not help but sigh. Not bad for a Hua Nation citizen. Japan was a country that worshipped the brave and the strong. Now, Lin Fan had written down the detailed process of Zhou's conjecture. After that, he was challenging another world-class problem. Without a doubt, he belonged to the strong. He was a powerhouse of the mathematics world. At the edge of the auditorium. When Nie Junjiang saw the detailed process of Zhou's conjecture written by Lin Fan, he was completely convinced. It was normal for the mathematical modeling competition to award him the higher education cup. After all, he was someone who solved Zhou's conjecture. When Nie Junjiang saw Lin Fan continue to write down the equations, his eyes immediately widened. In the middle of the auditorium, Hu Tian's beautiful eyes were fixed on Lin Fan the entire time. In her eyes, Lin Fan was not even writing down the detailed process of Zhou's conjecture. He was just playing a beautiful piece of music on the spot. It was pleasant and charming. After he solved Zhou's conjecture, Lin Fan did not stop and started to solve the twin prime number conjecture. It was as if he was creating a shocking piece of music on the spot. Hu Tian's heart began to beat faster and faster as he calculated. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours had passed. It was already 3 in the afternoon. The group of mathematicians had been sitting in the auditorium since the morning. Even though their stomachs were already rumbling with hunger, no one left to eat. Not to mention eating, they even rarely made visits to the washroom. They were afraid that they would miss a great moment if they left. Lin Fan did not care so much. He was still writing down calculations on the stage. In fact, at the start, Lin Fan only wanted to write down the process of solving Zhou's conjecture. However, as he wrote, he was completely focused, and his body could not help but write out the formula for the twin prime number conjecture. After another half an hour, Lin Fan's writing suddenly slowed down. Seeing this, the mathematicians sitting in the audience could not help but discuss in low voices. He can't do it? As expected, it's very difficult. You can't blame him for this. Lin Fan, who was standing on the stage, was indeed in a difficult situation. In Lin Fan's mind, what he was writing was not a formula. Instead, it was a path that led to the most beautiful scenery. However, this path was extremely rugged. At this moment, a huge rock was blocking the middle of the road. If he wanted to see the beautiful scenery in front of him, he had to move the stone. Now, he had already walked more than half of the way, and the beautiful scenery was right in front of him. Lin Fan did not want to give up. He had to think of every possible way to continue moving forward. Do you want to use the skill doubling card on academician level mathematics experience? The doubling time is 1 hour. Yes. Lin Fan reacted instinctively. At the same time, a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding! Absolute focus activated. You've received a flash of inspiration. Just when everyone thought that it was over. Suddenly, Lin Fan's fingers started flying as he quickly wrote on the electronic board. In the hall, some people were already preparing to leave. At this moment, it was as if a spell had been cast on them, and they were instantly rooted to the ground. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the screen without blinking. Perhaps we can really witness a great moment today, Jeffrey said. The people around them nodded. Clearly, they all agreed with this point of view. Hu Chuan's breathing became heavy as he looked at the complex calculations that kept appearing on the display screen. His eyes were a little red. If Lin Fan could really solve the twin prime number conjecture, it would once again promote the progress of the entire mathematics world. However, this was not only for Hua Nation but also for Zhongbei University. It would be a great honor. It was because the person who solved the twin prime number conjecture was Lin Fan. Moreover, he solved it in front of all the mathematicians at Zhongbei University. Hu Chuan clenched his fists tightly, repeating in his heart, he has to succeed, he has to. At the edge of the auditorium, Lin Fan had written Zhou's conjecture in great detail. Therefore, Nie Junjiang could barely understand it. However, the formula for the twin prime number conjecture was not so detailed. Not long after, Nie Junjiang could not keep up with Lin Fan's explanation. In fact, he even felt dizzy from watching. Now, Lin Fan had increased his speed. Nie Junjiang could not help but give up watching. He muttered in his heart, "Lin Fan, just how far have you gone in your mathematics research?" In the middle of the auditorium, Hu Tian's beautiful eyes had been fixated on Lin Fan from the very beginning. In her eyes, it was as if Lin Fan was standing on a high platform, using his finger as a brush and the sky as his canvas. He waved his finger continuously and quickly drew out a huge, colorful painting of mountains and rivers. At this moment, the picture suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light and transformed into a beautiful real world. Hu Tian's heart was beating wildly. At that moment, Lin Fan wrote down the last equation on the electronic board. Geoffrey, Lancelot, and a few other mathematicians were the first to applaud. Following that, the surrounding people also started clapping. Gradually, the entire auditorium was filled with thunderous applause. Everyone's face was filled with unconcealable excitement. It was because they had just witnessed a great moment. The problem that could not be solved for a century, the twin prime number conjecture, was solved. Lin Fan's face was filled with a strange look. That was because a crisp notification sound rang in his mind. Ding! Charming aura. You've triggered an unforgettable memory. Unforgettable memory? He seemed to have solved the twin prime number conjecture. Why did it trigger unforgettable memory? Who was it? While Lin Fan was still confused, a clear voice rang out in his mind. Ding! You've completed the hidden mission, host a shocking report. You've received 5 silver packets. Lin Fan's lips curled up. 5 silver packets? It could also be considered that this report was not done in vain. The applause lasted for a long time before it slowly ended. The University of Jiangbei had already prepared a luncheon. However, the report did not stop at noon. At this moment, the luncheon could finally proceed. Not long after, the audience was invited to the banquet hall of Jiangbei University. The place was covered with red carpets and flowers. Many exquisite dishes and wine were on display for everyone to enjoy. Geoffrey and the others ate some food, then took their high-class wine glasses and came to Lin Fan's side. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Lin. My name is Geoffrey." Geoffrey spoke in English. Lin Fan replied, "Hello." Geoffrey had been to Hua Nation before, so he could understand what Lin Fan was saying. However, Lancelot, Barnardin, and the others beside him were confused. It was to the extent that they did not manage to introduce themselves immediately. Geoffrey continued to speak in English and sighed. "It's hard to imagine that you could solve Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime conjecture at such a young age." Lin Fan just nodded his head and continued eating. For one, he was indeed a little hungry and did not want to talk much. Secondly, he did not understand what Geoffrey was saying at all. After all, Lin Fan's English was only at the high school level. Geoffrey, Lancelot, Barnardin, and the others said a few more words, but Lin Fan did not reply at all. It was a little awkward. At this moment, Hu Chuan walked over and explained in English, "I'm sorry, professors. Lin Fan is not good at English." Geoffrey, Lancelot, Barnardin, and the others had no choice but to leave. In their eyes, Lin Fan was an absolute math genius and they should seize the opportunity to communicate with him. However, there was a language barrier, and they could not communicate at all. Lin Fan had just eaten his fill, and he found a chance to slip away. Honestly, too many people came to chat with him, and he felt a little tired. Lin Fan did not know that not long after he left, a large group of reporters rushed in with cameras and microphones. After they found out that Lin Fan was not at the scene, they could only take a step back and target the dean of the School of Mathematics, Hu Chuan. "Dean Hu, did your student, Lin Fan, really solve Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture in today's report?" "Director Hu, may I ask how old Lin Fan is?" Excuse me, is Lin Fan the person who won the higher education cup? Hu Chuan appeared very calm in the face of the reporter's questions. He smiled. Lin Fan is an outstanding student from our school. He did solve Zhou's conjecture. This has already been verified by the World Mathematics Organization. In today's report, the twin prime conjecture was solved. Of course, whether it's correct or not, it still needs to be checked in detail. At this moment, Lin Fan was walking leisurely on a shady path. When they reached a crossroad, Hu Tian happened to walk over. Today, Hu Tian was wearing a V-shaped shirt and a high-waisted skirt, showing off her perfect figure. She gave off an elegant and noble feeling. This was Lin Fan's first time seeing Hu Tian since he participated in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Maybe it was because he had not seen her for a long time, but Lin Fan felt that she was getting more and more beautiful and charming. However, Lin Fan did not notice that Hu Tian was looking at him with a different look. After a long time, Hu Tian finally spoke first. Lin Fan, you're the main character of today's banquet. Why are you out so early? There'll probably be a press conference interviewing you later. Then it's a good thing I came out early, Lin Fan said. In the banquet hall, he was already getting a headache from all the questions from the mathematicians. If another group of reporters came, just thinking about it gave him a headache. Furthermore, Lin Fan had always liked to keep a low profile. Otherwise, Lin Fan would not have rejected the talent scout when he was eating with Hu Tian. Hu Tian smiled and said, it seems you're really not someone who wants to be famous. It's good to be ordinary, Lin Fan said. The two of them chatted as they walked, and the atmosphere was very relaxed. As she was too engrossed in their conversation, Hu Tian did not notice the steps in front of her and accidentally tripped. Lin Fan's eyes were sharp, and his hands were quick. He hurriedly reached out to hold Hu Tian's slender waist. The two of them looked at each other. Time. It was as if the pause button had been pressed at this moment. Then, as if attracted by something, Hu Tian gently nodded and took the initiative to move closer. Today, Lin Fan arrived at Hu Tian's house. It was warm and simple. Perhaps it was because it was his first time here. Hu Tian and Lin Fan went to the balcony and the sofa. He had no sleep tonight. In the blink of an eye, it was the next morning. Lin Fan looked at Hu Tian, who was lying on the bed like a little kitten. A faint smile appeared on his face. Then, he could not help but use the eyes of truth to observe her. Face value, 98. Favorability, 95. Seeing this, Lin Fan immediately understood. Yesterday, the person who triggered charming aura was actually teacher Tian Tian. No wonder she was so proactive earlier. At this moment, a small sparrow outside the window let out a melodious cry. Hu Tian finally opened her eyes slowly. You're awake? Lin Fan smiled. Yes, I am, Hu Tian said. Just in time. I cooked some noodles. Let's get up and eat, Lin Fan said. Hu Tian nodded. After washing up, the two of them went to the dining room. You must be wondering why I've been avoiding you on purpose the past few days, right? Hu Tian asked while eating her noodles. Lin Fan did have some feelings about this. Take the mathematical modeling competition as an example. Hu Tian was an expert in the mathematical modeling competition, but she specifically asked Zhang Yong to help her train. After that, Lin Fan never saw Hu Tian again. It was a little weird. Lin Fan nodded. Actually, it's because I have a girlfriend, Hu Tian said. A girlfriend? Lin Fan was obviously stunned. Do you mind? Hu Tian asked cautiously. Lin Fan shook his head. Seeing this, Hu Tian heaved a sigh of relief and said, both of us don't want to get married. At first, I thought it would be good to continue like this, but I met you. That day, after I had dinner with you at Zhongshan Building, my feelings were at their strongest. I also met her on the same day. That made me waver, so I chose to avoid you. Because, in my opinion, if we don't see each other, I'll slowly forget about my feelings for you. Lin Fan blinked his eyes and asked, then why did you come looking for me? Because I couldn't control my emotions anymore. Hu Tian laughed. Also, I realized. You already have a few girlfriends. I can continue being an unmarried person. I've just changed my partner. Lin Fan could not help but smile and rub his nose. After leaving Hu Tian's house, Lin Fan went straight into the Pagani Huayra. At this moment, his phone vibrated slightly. 12 o'clock. The red packets were here. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan. Lin Fan earned a total of 34,511 yuan. Why have I only been receiving cash for the past few days? Lin Fan asked helplessly. Then, he turned his attention to the system. Do you want to open the 5 silver packets? I won't get anything good from the normal red packet. Let's take a look at the silver packets, Lin Fan said. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 700,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 800,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received a 10x spending return card. Ding. Congratulations, you've obtained expert level tea ceremony skills. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 500,000 yuan. From the 5 silver packets, Lin Fan received a total of 2 million yuan and a 10x spending return card. Lin Fan was not too bothered by all this. He immediately turned his attention to the expert level tea ceremony skills. Expert level tea ceremony skills, your every action when brewing and tasting tea is accurate and elegant, producing unlimited charm. Seeing this, Lin Fan pursed his lips and said helplessly, it really is a tea drinking skill. Then, he prepared to start the engine of the Pagani Huayra. At that moment, Lin Fan's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Hu Chuan. Lin Fan picked up the call. Lin Fan, are you free later? Hu Chuan asked. There was an unconcealable joy in his tone. It was obvious that Hu Chuan was in a good mood. This was normal. After all, Hu Chuan was the dean of the mathematics department at Zhongbei University. Someone from the School of Mathematics solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture. This would be of great benefit to him, the dean. What's the matter? Lin Fan asked. There'll be someone from the TV station who wants to do an interview with you later. However, before Hu Chuan could finish, Lin Fan interrupted, I'm not interested in going for interviews. If you can, help me decline it. Many people liked to appear on television because it was easier to make money when they were famous. The second reason was that no matter where they went, they could call for a crowd. However, Lin Fan did not want that. Earn money? Lin Fan had more than enough money to spend. Be followed by a group of people everywhere he went? That was even more of a reason for Lin Fan to dislike interviews. Now, he just wanted to enjoy life in peace. There was no sound from the phone for a while. It was obvious that Lin Fan's answer had completely exceeded Hu Chuan's expectations. That was an interview with a television station. Countless people would be proud to appear on television. Lin Fan rejected it? After a long while, Hu Chuan said, Oh, okay. Hu Chuan did not try to persuade Lin Fan. Although he had not spent much time interacting with Lin Fan, he also understood that Lin Fan was someone who had his own thoughts and did not like to be restricted. What if Lin Fan got annoyed with him and even left Zhongbei University because of it? That would really be a loss that outweighed the gain. Hu Chuan thought for a while and said, The People's Daily. They might also report about you. There's no need for an interview, right? Lin Fan asked. No need, Hu Chuan hurriedly said. That's good. Lin Fan nodded. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. All right, he said. Huchuan continued, if you don't like to be interviewed, I'll try my best not to let the news media disturb you in the future. Then I'll have to trouble you, Lin Fan said. After that, he hung up the phone. When Lin Fan entered the classroom, many students' gazes were focused on him. Lin Fan did not mind it too much and sat down. Zheng Jinbao could not help but ask, Brother Lin Fan, I heard that, not only did you solve Zhou's conjecture yesterday, but you also solved the twin prime number conjecture? Yesterday's report was very high profile. Even ordinary teachers were unable to participate, let alone ordinary students. Zheng Jinbao and the others did not go either. However, they had obviously heard some rumors. Yes, Lin Fan replied. His tone was so relaxed as if he had just done a very ordinary and small thing. However, to everyone's ears, it sounded like a thunderclap. Everyone looked at Lin Fan as if they were looking at a god, the god of learning. Brother Lin Fan, I'll kneel down to you. Zheng Jinbo, Song Yi, and Mai Zhong all shouted in unison. In fact, they were not the only ones who wanted to kneel. All the students in the class wanted to kneel to him. That was Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture. The average person would not be able to understand it even if they read it, let alone answer it. Lin Fan could not help but laugh. Then, Zheng Jinbao quickly took out a small notebook and said, Brother Lin Fan, can I get an autograph? Please give me your autograph. Lin Fan took a pen and signed his name. Song Yi, Mai Zhong, and even all the students in the class followed suit, holding books and asking for autographs. One must know that Lin Fan had solved 2 previously unsolved math questions. His autograph would definitely be extremely hard to come by in the future. Suddenly, the entire classroom was a mess. Ding! Ding! After the ear-piercing school bell rang, the class slowly returned to normal. It was the old professor's class again. His way of teaching was always slow, like a lullaby. Very quickly, Lin Fan was sent to sleep. The old professor was very casual in class and rarely cared about class discipline. However, he had taken note of the students' performance and remembered it in his heart. The students who often slept in class and played with their mobile phones had long been listed in the old professor's small notebook. He would settle the score with them during the final exams. Lin Fan, who slept every day, was given a death sentence by the old professor. The old professor had already made up his mind that he would directly fail Lin Fan at the end of the term. However, the old professor was looking at Lin Fan with admiration at this moment. He thought, he must have been working till late at night to solve Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture. Thinking of this, the old professor slowly walked down from the podium, took off his coat, and put it on Lin Fan. This kind of person who worked so hard for mathematics must not be left to freeze in the cold. At this moment, Nia Zhenjiang had already returned to Huaqing University. Nia Zhenjiang was indeed a top student. He did not waste any time. After he got off the plane, he did not even return to his dormitory. Instead, he went straight to the laboratory and studied and researched seriously. Add a decimal point to the back of the value. Re-verify. Calculate the trajectory. Sonorous and powerful voices reverberated in the laboratory. Nia Zhenjiang was full of energy and fighting spirit. At this moment, a round-faced man swiped his phone as he slowly walked in. The next moment, the round-faced man said in surprise, F***CK. Zhenjiang, Jingbei is using this sewer design from the mathematical modeling competition you participated in. This is too awesome. When Nia Zhenjiang heard this, he put down what he was doing and asked curiously, which design? He took the round-faced man's phone and quickly looked through it. When he finished looking at the design, a look of surprise appeared on his face. It was perfect. In the mathematical modeling competition, Nia Zhenjiang chose to design a house. This did not mean that he did not know how to design sewers. However, even if he had chosen to design the sewerage system, he would not have been able to come up with such a perfect design. This was a design that far exceeded his own. In fact, Nie Junjiang felt that even his mentor would not be able to design a sewerage system like this. Finally, Nie Junjiang's eyes slowly fell on the designer in the bottom corner. Lin Fan, Xia Bing, and Xia Shui. Nie Junjiang was stunned. It was them. At this moment, Nie Junjiang finally understood that the judges of the mathematical modeling competition did not make their choice because Lin Fan solved Zhou's conjecture. The Higher Education Cup was awarded to him for the rightful reason. It was because Lin Fan's mathematical modeling did have the qualifications. Lin Fan, just how strong are you? Nie Junjiang mumbled. Lin Fan naturally did not know what Nie Junjiang was thinking. He slept more comfortably than usual. After school, Lin Fan greeted Zheng Jinbao and the rest, then headed straight to Ika City. As usual, Lin Fan opened the door of room 2501. At this moment, 2 fireworks exploded above Lin Fan's head. The bright red ribbons floated down like snowflakes. Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling shouted in unison, "Congratulations on solving Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture." Obviously, they had already seen the news report. At this moment, Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling were looking at Lin Fan with a look of adoration. In their hearts, winning the Higher Education Cup made Lin Fan a godlike figure. Not only did Lin Fan win the Higher Education Cup, but he also solved 2 unsolved math problems in the world. Was he still a top student? He was more like the emperor of all students. This was simply. He was an existence that they could not imagine. It was nighttime. Ika City, room 2501. The place shook for the whole night. Lin Fan did not sleep the entire night. If Washington Palace was the most expensive building in the school district in Jiangbei, the Heaven and Earth Imperial Garden was the most expensive residential building in Jiangbei city center. Not only was the location of Heaven and Earth Imperial Garden excellent, but there were also many office buildings and subway stations outside. The environment of the community was also very good. The overall European garden landscape was magnificent and gorgeous. It looked just like a park. It was rare to see such a place in the center of Jiangbei City. At that moment, Hu Tian was driving her Mini Cooper into Heaven and Earth Imperial Garden with great familiarity. With a pleasant sound, the door to the unit on the 23rd floor slowly opened. A beautiful woman in a long black dress walked out. She had fair skin and an excellent figure. When she saw that the person was Hu Tian, a smile appeared on her pretty face. She quickly welcomed Hu Tian in. After the door was closed, the beauty immediately opened her arms and threw herself into Hu Tian's embrace. She said happily, Tian, I've been waiting for you for a long time." However, the beauty soon noticed the abnormality. Tian, something seems off about you today. Did something happen? Hu Tian hesitated for a moment before finally saying, I have something to tell you. I've found a man I like. Silence. The entire house suddenly fell into silence. In the United States, Poston. Before he arrived, laughter could be heard. Professor Edison, it's a pity that you didn't go to Jiangbei, Hua Nation. Jeffrey laughed. Edison put down the book in his hand and asked, Jeffrey, did that Hua Nation man really solve the twin prime number conjecture? Jeffrey told Edison the good news on the phone before he boarded the plane. Due to time constraints, Jeffrey only gave a brief explanation, and Edison did not know the details. Even so, it still made Edison extremely excited. Jeffrey sighed in admiration. He did more than just that. He even answered it at the venue of the report. You know what? Mr. Lin Fan is only in his 20s. Heavens! I thought he was the god of mathematics. Jeffrey's tone became high. Jeffrey could not help but feel excited whenever he thought of that scene. Edison's old face also revealed a look of fascination. If I had known earlier, I would have put down everything on hand and made a trip to Hua Nation. He sighed. After a pause, he asked again, by the way, why didn't you stay in Hua Nation longer? You could have discussed more with Mr. Lin Fan. He was a mathematician who solved both Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture at the same time. No one could imagine how advanced he was in mathematics. It was definitely a good thing to discuss mathematics with someone like him. Jeffrey said helplessly, I also wanted to. But he can't speak English, and I can't speak his language. Edison nodded in understanding. A language barrier was indeed a very troublesome matter. That's why I'm planning to start learning the language, Jeffrey said. The next time I see Lin Fan, I'll be able to communicate and discuss with him. Professor Edison, do you want to join us? Edison opened his mouth. Finally, he sighed helplessly and said, I think I'll pass. Chinese is one of the most difficult languages to master in the world. I'm getting old. I'm afraid I don't have the energy to master it now. Lin Fan is still young. Who knows? He might be able to master English soon. The next day, when a warm ray of sunlight shone on the balcony, Lin Fan slowly opened his eyes. He casually glanced at his phone and saw a text message appear on the screen. Notice from Merchant Bank, 1,410,000 yuan was deposited into your account at 12 a.m. Then, Lin Fan slowly got up and walked out. At this time, the dining table was already filled with fragrant noodles, eggs, milk, egg pancakes, and other food. Zhou Ziqian, who was busy in the kitchen, smiled and said, Honey, you're awake? Hurry up and eat something. Try it and see if it suits your taste. Huang Ling stuck out her head and said. Lin Fan took a bite of the noodles and praised, delicious. His praise filled the hearts of Huang Ling and Zhou Ziqian with a sweet feeling. After breakfast. Honey, I heard that there's a large-scale ritual at the Hero Mountain Temple today, Zhou Ziqian said. Shall we go burn some incense and walk around? When Huang Ling heard this, she could not help but look at Lin Fan with a look of anticipation. Obviously, she wanted to go too. Lin Fan was the same as most people today. He had never believed in any gods or Buddha. However, it was the weekend, and it was a good idea to go out with Zhou Ziqian and Huang Ling. Alright, let's go to the temple to burn some incense. He nodded. When Zhou Ziqian and Huang Ling heard this, their pretty faces revealed a touch of joy. The Pagani Huayra could only see two people, so they were driving Zhou Ziqian's Mini Cooper today. The temple was located in the suburbs of Zhangbei. However, along the way, there were trees and flowers, which were quite pleasing to the eye. As they neared the temple, the number of vehicles around them increased. It even caused a long congestion. Obviously, everyone had come after hearing about it. About an hour later, the three of them arrived at the parking lot and walked toward the temple. After walking for a while, Hero Mountain appeared in front of Lin Fan and the others. It was said that this place was not called Hero Mountain in the past. It was changed because a hero had sworn to guard this place with his life during the war and protected the villagers. Lin Fan stopped in his tracks and looked at the stone tablet. Then, he continued walking forward. At this moment, there were clearly more people around. Some of them had pious expressions on their faces, while others were talking and laughing. All of them headed toward the temple where the faint sound of prayers could be heard. The temple was very grand and imposing. A huge golden Buddha sat in it, and several monks sat below, chanting Buddhist scriptures and knocking on the wooden blocks from time to time, adding a touch of solemnity and mystery to the temple. Many people stood in the distance and bowed 3 times before inserting the tall incense sticks into the huge incense burner. Zhou Ziqian and Huang Ling also bought incense sticks and came to the incense burner. At this moment, a familiar voice suddenly came from the side. Lin Fan? Lin Fan slowly turned around and said in shock, Sun Luhua? I didn't expect to meet you here. The person who had come was the young master of the Sun family's medical company, Sun Luhua. He lost to Lin Fan in a car race and gave Lin Fan a 100-year-old Ganoderma. I didn't expect it either. Sun Luhua laughed. The dignified and beautiful girl holding Sun Luhua's arm said, Luhua, this is. Oh, this is Lin Fan. I told you about him last time. He's really good at Go. Sun Luhua introduced, Lin Fan, this is my girlfriend, Fan Wenxiang. When Fan Wenxiang heard this, a look of curiosity appeared on her face. From top to bottom, she sized Lin Fan up once more. So you're Lin Fan? Luhua has mentioned you a lot to me, Fan Wenxiang said with a smile. Nice to meet you, I'm Lin Fan. Lin Fan smiled. After a pause, he prepared to introduce Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling. However, he did not know how to introduce them. Should he just say that they were his girlfriends? Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling seemed to understand Lin Fan's dilemma. Thus, they took the initiative to introduce themselves. I'm Lin Fan's friend, Huang Ling. I'm Qiu Ziqian. In the beginning, they were not familiar with each other, so the atmosphere was a little dull. However, after the conversation started, the few of them began to talk and laugh, and the atmosphere became very relaxed and happy. On the side of the temple was a wish corridor, which was filled with wish tablets written by tourists. The few of them also bought wish tablets and wrote down their wishes. Qiu Ziqian, I hope the people I love and the people who love me will always be safe and healthy. Huang Ling, I hope everyone will be happy and joyful. Lin Fan took the pen and pondered for a while. Then, he wrote down a line of words, may we live long and share an abundance of joy. His brush moved like dragons and snakes, light and free. At this moment, a deep voice suddenly rang out from the side, excellent calligraphy. When Lin Fan heard this, he could not help but look to the side. He saw a white-haired old man over 80 years old looking at him. He was not like an ordinary old man who had a hunched back and looked old. On the contrary, he had a pair of tiger-like eyes, and his back was straight. His whole body was filled with a majestic aura. Lin Fan looked at the wish tablet in the old man's hand that read, permanent health. The writing style is continuous, the energy is smooth, and it's strong and powerful. Your face and calligraphy are both very good. Lin Fan nodded and said, Oh. The old man could not help but size Lin Fan up and praised him. It's been a long time since I've met a young man who has good calligraphy and knows how to analyze. Not bad. Lin Fan could feel a sense of familiarity from the old man, like that of a grandfather. Thus, they began to chat. I don't think you're a local, right? Are you here for a vacation? Lin Fan asked. The old man looked into the distance and said, you can consider it a vacation, but I'm a local of Jiangbei. Lin Fan found it a little weird when he heard that. A local. Why did he say he was traveling, then? Your hometown is Jiangbei? Lin Fan asked. Yup. I haven't been back for decades, and the changes are too great. Things aren't the same as people. The old man sighed. Sun Luhua and Fan Wenxiang had already hung up their wish tablets. When they heard the sounds, they slowly turned around. At first glance, they saw 4 burly men who exuded an aura of iron and blood. Sun Luhua and Fan Wenxiang were both from large families, so they knew very well that these 4 men were definitely not ordinary people. They could not help but feel a little surprised. Then, they looked at Lin Fan and the old man. When he saw the old man, Sun Luhua's pupils suddenly shrank, and a hint of shock appeared on his face. Sun Luhua graduated from Huaqing University. A few months ago, when Huaqing University held its anniversary celebration, the old man's congratulatory video was played at the opening ceremony. He was the pillar of Hua Nation. Now, he actually appeared in front of him? No wonder there were 4 burly men standing around the old man. They should be protecting the old man's safety. Sun Luhua swallowed his saliva, his entire person already at a loss. Qiu Ziqian, Huang Ling, and the others did not notice the change in Sun Luhua. They lowered their heads and looked at the 10-year-old boy who had been hugging the old man's leg. The boy had delicate features, and he looked like the old man. He was obviously his grandson. Qiu Ziqian saw that the boy was a little shy, so she bent over and greeted him with a smile. Hello? The boy scratched his head and twisted his body in a very strange way. Then, he opened his mouth, letting his saliva flow out. He looked very dull and silly. Seeing this, some deep memories surfaced in Xiao Ziqian's mind. She used to have a younger brother, but he had autism. He was very afraid of strangers, did not communicate with others, and was often dazed. However, Xiao Ziqian still had a good relationship with her brother. She taught him to sing and draw every day. He was very happy. However, one day, her brother suddenly rushed out of the house. At that moment, a truck passed by. Hence, that was how the tragedy began. Xiao Ziqian's eyes reddened at the thought. "Old man, what's wrong with our little friend?" Huang Ling could not help asking. "I don't know what happened, but a year ago, he suddenly became like this." The old man sighed. As he spoke, the old man also lowered his head to look at the little boy, his face full of affection. "Didn't you bring him to the hospital?" Huang Ling asked again. "I've been to many hospitals, but I still can't find out the cause," the old man said. Right at this moment, the little boy's body suddenly convulsed violently, and he even spat out a mouthful of white foam. "No!" The old man's expression changed drastically as he shouted, "Quick, come and see how Howard is doing." The middle-aged man standing behind him hurried forward and called out, "Hurry up and hold his hands and feet. Don't let him move." Two burly men quickly held down the boy's limbs. How powerful were they? Even a male lion would not be able to move, let alone a little boy. The other two burly men looked around vigilantly, preventing any random people from getting close. The middle-aged man quickly took out a tube of medicine from his bag and injected it into the little boy's arm. The effect of the medicine was immediate, and the little boy soon stopped twitching. It was obvious that the middle-aged man was a doctor. Just as the doctor heaved a sigh of relief, the foam at the corner of the little boy's mouth did not decrease. On the contrary, there was even more. Then, the little boy's breathing gradually slowed down, and his heartbeat became weak. The doctor's expression changed drastically when he saw this. He quickly pressed on the little boy's chest, then injected some other drugs. However, they had no effect at all. In fact, the little boy was getting weaker and weaker, like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any time. The anxious-looking old man asked, "How's Howard?" At this moment, the doctor's forehead was already covered in sweat. "Yuhao's condition is very bad," he said in a panic. "I don't have enough medicine and equipment here. It's best to go to a big hospital as soon as possible. Otherwise..." He did not continue. However, the old man knew very well what he meant. The old man suddenly turned around and looked at the dense crowd in crowded vehicles below the temple. He did not let his men carry the little boy down the mountain to drive to a hospital immediately because it would be a waste of time. He quickly took out his phone and made a call. "My grandson is sick in Hero Mountain Temple. Send a helicopter over immediately." After that, he hung up the phone. Then, the old man looked at the little boy with concern. The atmosphere became tense and heavy. Although the old man did not say anything else, it only made the doctor more nervous and flustered. He knew the old man's identity very well, and the boy in front of him was the old man's only grandson. If something were to happen in his hands, the consequences. Just thinking about it made the doctor's back sweat. The people in the distance had also noticed the situation. However, they were being stared at by two burly men. It was as if they were being stared at by two lions, so they did not dare to get close at all. This gave the doctor enough space to treat him. However, just as the doctor had said, there was indeed too little medicine and equipment here. At this moment, the little boy suddenly rolled his eyes upward, and his entire face turned pale. "Howard!" The old man, who would not change his expression even if a mountain were to collapse in front of him, could not help but shout. Xiao Ziqian, who was standing at the side, felt the same way and shed tears. Lin Fan, who had not said anything all this time, finally spoke, "I can save him." Lin Fan was not a good person who would save anyone he saw. However, firstly, he had a pleasant conversation with the old man, and Lin Fan felt like he was his grandfather. Secondly, Xiao Ziqian's heart ached for the boy. That was why Lin Fan chose to make a move. Sun Lugwa, who had been standing at the side and had not spoken from the beginning to the end, suddenly had a change in expression. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to remind Lin Fan of something. However, he did not make a sound. Sun Lugwa knew the old man's identity, and the boy in front of him was his grandson. Of course, it was a good thing if he could be cured. However, what if he could not be cured, or if something happened to the boy? The consequences would be too terrifying. Lin Fan was only a student at Zhongbei University. The little boy's condition was so bad that even the old man's doctor could not do anything. How could Lin Fan treat him? In Sun Lugwa's eyes, Lin Fan was really too rash. The old man looked at the boundless sky and then at his grandson, whose face was getting uglier and uglier. Finally, he locked his gaze onto Lin Fan. If an ordinary person were to be stared at by the old man like this, they would definitely tremble and become extremely flustered. However, Lin Fan was still calm and composed. Go ahead and treat him. I won't blame you even if something goes wrong. The old man took a deep breath. This was the first time Lin Fan and the old man had met. Furthermore, Lin Fan was so young. Despite the old man's identity, he still allowed treatment. It had to be said that the old man's magnanimity was indeed far superior to ordinary people. Lin Fan let out a look of surprise as well. At that moment, the doctor who was treating the little boy could not help but look at Lin Fan and frown. The truth was that Lin Fan looked way too young. Being a doctor required one to have a very profound field of knowledge. It required years of study and practice to achieve a certain level of success. It was obvious that Lin Fan did not have the qualifications to do so. However, this was the old man's request, so he still said, I'll tell you about the patient's condition first. Say no more. Lin Fan waved his hand. Then, he spent 10 million yuan to buy a bottle of medical water from the system and was about to pour it into the little boy's mouth. What kind of medicine is this? The doctor hurriedly stopped him. The boy was in a very dangerous situation. Any mistake could lead to his death. Lin Fan was young, and he did not even ask about the boy's illness. He directly gave the boy the medicine. How could the doctor not be worried? Lin Fan did not reply and just looked at the old man. The old man frowned and said, Dr. Huang, can you think of any other way? If not, let him treat Howard. The old man had agreed to let Lin Fan treat the boy. In that case, the old man had to be bold enough to see it happen. The doctor's heart trembled, and he did not dare to stop Lin Fan anymore. Lin Fan poured the medical water into the little boy's mouth. Instantly, everyone's eyes were focused on the little boy. The old man, Xiao Ziqian, and the others were concerned and worried. They hoped that the little boy could get better. Sun Lugwa was afraid. He was afraid that the boy's condition would worsen again. Not long after, the little boy, who had been constantly rolling his eyes upward, finally recovered. Then, his mouth gradually stopped frothing. The next second, the little boy's breathing and heartbeat started to calm down. He lay on the ground as if he had fallen asleep. Seeing this, everyone's face revealed a hint of joy. The little boy. It seemed like he was fine. How's Howard doing? The old man asked. The doctor hurriedly checked and said, He's already past the danger. After saying that, the doctor looked at Lin Fan in disbelief. As the old man's personal doctor, he knew very well how bad the boy's physical condition was. Even if the boy stopped breathing the next second, the doctor would not be surprised. However, he was cured in the blink of an eye after drinking a bottle of medicine? This was simply a divine medicine. The doctor opened his mouth. He wanted to ask Lin Fan what kind of medicine it was, but he did not say it. The old man understood that this was all Lin Fan's work. Thank you for saving Howard. The old man said solemnly. The doctor, the four burly men standing around, and Sun Lugwa were all shocked. The old man. He actually personally thanked him. What kind of honor was this? Lin Fan waved his hand casually. I just did a small favor. There's no need to be polite. The little boy slowly opened his eyes. He first covered his eyes with his hands, then struggled to sit up. The doctor beside him quickly helped him up. The little boy looked around. His eyes were not as dull and lifeless as before but full of curiosity. In the end, the little boy's gaze fell on the old man in front of him. He asked, "Grandpa, where are we?" "Grandpa." He actually called him Grandpa. Ever since he fell sick a year ago, he had never called him Grandpa. The old man's aged face flushed red. He was happy and excited. When his grandson suddenly fell ill, the old man sought out countless famous doctors. However, it was of no use. Perhaps the old man was too worried about his grandson's illness. A few days ago, he suddenly dreamed that Buddha had appeared in his hometown's temple and cured his grandson's illness. The old man had always been an atheist. However, after staying in the capital for so many years, he was a little bored. It was not a bad idea to bring his grandson back to his hometown for a walk. Then, the scene today happened. However, the old man did not expect that his grandson would really be cured. "This is great. Yuhao, it's good that you're fine." The old man cried out in excitement. Then, he looked at Lin Fan and said, "I haven't introduced myself. My name is Qin Weiming." "Little brother, what's your name?" The surrounding people were shocked again. Qin Weiming was introducing himself to a young man? Sun Luguo looked at Lin Fan with eyes full of envy. At the same time, he decided that he would work hard to build a good relationship with Lin Fan. "Qin Weiming?" Lin Fan's face was filled with a weird expression. He vaguely remembered that there was a hero monument on the way to the temple. The name on the monument seemed to be Qin Weiming. "I'm Lin Fan." At this time, an army green helicopter suddenly appeared in the sky. When the crowd saw that the little boy had been rescued, they could not help but slowly disperse. Now that they suddenly saw a helicopter in the sky, they stopped and looked up again. When they saw that the helicopter was getting closer and closer to them, they all made way. Soon, two tall, middle-aged men with badges on their shoulders came out of the helicopter. They quickly came to Qin Weiming, stood at attention, saluted, and shouted, "Good day, leader." Qin Weiming put his hands behind his back and nodded. Now, his grandson had recovered. His entire person also felt much more relaxed. Qin Weiming looked around and saw that more and more ordinary people were looking at him. He understood. It was no longer appropriate for him to continue staying here. Hence, he brought his grandson and headed for the helicopter. However, before Qin Weiming left, he said to Lin Fan, "Little brother Lin, if you're free, why don't you come over to my place?" The two men with badges on their shoulders could not help but look at Lin Fan in shock. Old Qin was actually so polite to a young man? Lin Fan had never taken a helicopter before. After hearing Qin Weiming's words, he was tempted. However, he did not answer immediately. Instead, he turned to Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling, ready to say something. Qiu Ziqian said, "Lin Fan, you can go with them. Huang Ling and I will drive the car back." Huang Ling nodded in agreement. No matter how stupid they were, they knew that Qin Weiming had a terrifying background. Now that Lin Fan had saved Qin Weiming's grandson's life, they were sure that something good would happen. They did not want Lin Fan to miss this chance. Sun Luguo said, "That's right, Lin Fan. Just go. I'll definitely send your two friends back safely." Now, as long as Sun Luguo could find an opportunity to interact with Lin Fan, he would not miss it. "Alright then." Lin Fan nodded. Then, Lin Fan boarded the helicopter. There was a huge difference between a helicopter and a passenger plane. One had to wear headphones when sitting in it. Otherwise, the rumbling sounds could simply burst one's eardrums. Sitting in the helicopter and looking at the scenery outside was far better than doing the same on a passenger plane. There were layers of clouds, buildings the size of sesame seeds, and square fields. All of these gave people a different feeling. Not long after, Lin Fan arrived at a manor with a beautiful scenery. Soon, a group of doctors in white coats surrounded Qin Yuhao. They took his pulse, listened to his voice, drew his blood, and took an X-ray. Soon, a stack of information appeared in the hands of the doctors. In the end, the old doctor with gray hair walked to Qin Weiming and said, "Old leader, other than slight malnourishment, Yuhao's body is basically fine." With Qin Weiming's status, he would not let his grandson go hungry. However, in the past year, his grandson had been in a sluggish state, often drooling and not eating. Over time, this caused him to be a little malnourished. At this moment, a man with a badge on his shoulder walked up and handed over a stack of documents. At the top of the information, there were 2 words, Lin Fan. Qin Weiming flipped through it quickly and mumbled, "So, he's the one who saved Zhou Guotao. A young mathematician? Oh. The captain of Dragon Division Team 10. No wonder he has such an ability." In such a short period of time, he was able to gather Lin Fan's information. One had to admit that Qin Weiming's methods were indeed impressive. At that moment, Lin Fan was sitting under a big tree in the courtyard, enjoying the scenery in the distance. He was extremely relaxed. Qin Weiming held Qin Yuhao's hand and looked from afar. As expected of the captain of Dragon Division Team 10. He did say that Lin Fan did not have to be restrained here and just treat it as his own home. However, if it were someone else, they would definitely be extremely nervous. After all, Qin Weiming had already revealed his identity, and there were many sentries standing outside the courtyard. "Little brother Lin, what do you think of my grandson's condition?" Qin Weiming asked as he walked forward. Lin Fan said, "You don't have to worry. He's fine." Even though the doctor had said that Qin Yuhao had recovered after many examinations, he was still in a bad state. Thus, Qin Weiming was still a little worried. However, Lin Fan had not even taken a look at Qin Yuhao but said that he was fine, which made Qin Weiming feel completely at ease. A kind smile appeared on his stern face. At this moment, the water at the side was boiling. Lin Fan first poured boiling water into the purple clay teapot. Then, he slowly put in the tea leaves and then brewed them with warm water. He filtered it. After it was boiled, a unique fragrance began to spread. Lin Fan picked up the lid and gently wiped away the tea foam. He also used a clean towel to wipe the water stains at the bottom of the pot. He turned the teacup upside down and turned it over. When he opened the lid, the fragrance of the tea became even stronger. Finally, Lin Fan poured the tea into a cup and said, "Please." When Qin Weiming, who was sitting opposite him, saw this, his cloudy eyes lit up slightly. He praised him, "Little brother Lin, I didn't expect you to be proficient in brewing tea in addition to your good calligraphy. It's really rare." When he was young, Qin Weiming was a decisive person. However, after he grew old and stayed in the sanatorium, his temper grew mild. Every day, he would write, drink tea, and play chess. He was carefree. This was normal. After all, if he did not do these things, Qin Weiming would not know what to do every day. After all these years of the same routine, he had a certain vision and achievements in brewing tea, calligraphy, and other aspects. Thus, he could easily recognize how extraordinary Lin Fan was. Qin Weiming held the teacup and took a sip. His face was full of enjoyment. Beside him, Qin Yuhao could not help but pour a cup of tea into his mouth when he saw his grandfather drinking it so happily. However, Qin Yuhao quickly spat it out and shouted, "It's so bitter." Lin Fan and Qin Weiming could not help but burst out laughing. "Little brother Lin, do you know how to play chess?" Qin Weiming asked. "I know a little," Lin Fan said. "Alright, let's play around," Qin Weiming said. Lin Fan had professional chess skills, while Qin Weiming was a chess expert. In the beginning, both of them played very quickly, each having their own advantages and disadvantages. However, as time passed, Qin Weiming's speed gradually slowed down while Lin Fan's speed remained the same. "General," Lin Fan said as he smirked. Qin Weiming stared at the chessboard for a long time and sighed. "Amazing." Instantly, his gaze on Lin Fan was filled with even more admiration. Not only did he have excellent calligraphy skills, but he also knew how to make tea. Even his chess skills were so exquisite. Was there anything he did not know? At this time, the middle-aged man with the badge on his shoulder strode over and saluted. The leader of Jiang province has brought a group of officials down the mountain. Would you like to meet them? Qin Weiming took a sip of tea to moisten his throat. Since they're here, then let's meet. All right. The middle-aged man said. Soon, a large group of men and women in white shirts, exuding the aura of superiors, quickly walked over. When they saw Qin Weiming, they cupped their hands and said respectfully, "Hello, old Qin." After a long while, the middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses standing in front said, "Elder Qin, I'm sorry. We didn't welcome you in time when you came. You're Lil Hong, right?" Qin Weiming waved his hand. "Yes, 4 years ago, my father and I visited you in Jingbei once," Hong Hanlin said. "Yes, I have some impression." Qin Weiming nodded and said. Hong Hanlin said, "Although we haven't seen each other for 4 years, you're still the same. You haven't changed at all. You're just like old Hong, always looking for nice things to say." Qin Weiming said. I was just speaking the truth," Hong Hanlin said. The two of them chatted for a while, and the atmosphere was quite carefree. Hong Hanlin said, "Elder Qin, we've prepared a banquet to welcome you to Jiang province. Are you free?" Qin Weiming touched his stomach. "Speaking of food, I'm a little hungry." "All right, let's go." Everyone was overjoyed when they heard that. It was definitely an honor to be able to have a meal with Qin Weiming. Not long after, Qin Weiming and the others arrived at Jiangbei Grand Hotel. Jiangbei Grand Hotel was not the most luxurious hotel in Jiang province. However, it was definitely one of the restaurants with the most profound background in Jiang province. Every time an important figure arrived in Jiang province, they would choose to have a meal at Jiangbei Grand Hotel. The hotel had the freshest ingredients and the best chefs. The color, fragrance, taste, and nutritional value of the food were ensured. An ordinary person could book a luxury hotel as long as they had enough money. As for Jiangbei Grand Hotel, it was not just about money. At this moment, several large round tables were placed in the huge banquet hall. Without a doubt, Qin Weiming sat in the innermost seat. Then, he waved into the distance and said, "Lin Fan, sit beside me." Lin Fan did not stand on ceremony and directly sat down. In his opinion, no matter where he sat, the food he ate was the same. When everyone saw this, they were all surprised. Before this, they had thought that Lin Fan was just Qin Weiming's subordinate. From the looks of it now, it was not that simple. Soon, a series of exquisitely made and fragrant dishes were slowly served. Hong Hanlin raised his wine glass high and said, "In the past, Elder Qin gave your all to protect Jiang province. It can be said that the prosperity of Jiang province is all due to Elder Qin's efforts. Let's thank Elder Qin for his contribution back then. At the same time, we welcome him to Jiang province." Hong Hanlin said. "Thank you, Elder Qin, for your contribution back then. Welcome to Jiang province." The remaining people in the banquet hall shouted in unison. Then, everyone filled their cups and poured the contents into their mouths. Qin Weiming nodded and took a sip of his wine. Even though it was only a small sip, everyone still revealed a look of excitement. Elder Qin had drunk the wine that they offered. This was an honor, a supreme honor. While everyone was overjoyed, Qin Weiming took the initiative to raise his glass and said, "Lin Fan, I'll give you a toast. Thank you for saving my Yuhao." At the scene, everyone, including Hong Hanlin, had their mouths wide open. Their faces revealed a look of disbelief. Elder Qin was toasting a young man? That was Elder Qin. This young man. Who was he? As for Qin Weiming's words, "Thank you for saving my grandson," they were all forgotten. To everyone, it was an honor to be able to help Qin Weiming's grandson. Lin Fan did not think too much about it. He raised his glass and said, "It's just a small matter. Elder Chin, you don't need to take it to heart. Their glasses clinked lightly, and they both drank the wine. Everyone was stunned again. Elder Chin drank a full glass of wine. At this time, everyone even felt like they were dreaming. Hong Hanlin was the first one to react. Elder Chin, this cured meat is a specialty of Jiang province. It tastes pretty good. Would you like to try it? He introduced. Cured meat from Jiang province? I haven't eaten it in years, Qin Weiming said. After Hong Hanlin spoke, everyone gradually came back to their senses. Lin Fan was very satisfied with the meal. He had eaten a lot of food before. However, the taste of the food here was far better than anywhere else. Lin Fan, the scenery and air here are pretty good. Do you want to stay with me for a few days? Qin Weiming asked. Gulp. When everyone heard this, although they were full, they still could not help but swallow their saliva. Elder Qin was taking the initiative to invite him to stay with him? This man. Who was he? Lin Fan shook his head. I'm still in school. I won't be able to join you. He actually refused. School? What was the use of going to school? This was a chance to stay with Elder Qin. Everyone wanted to agree on Lin Fan's behalf. Qin Weiming did not get angry. He nodded and said, You're indeed at the age to go to school. You have to send Lin Fan back to school safely. Yes, I promise to complete the task. The middle-aged man with the badge on his shoulder stood at attention and shouted. Everyone was already completely numb to this. Lin Fan did not care too much. After leaving Jiangbei Grand Hotel, he got into an army green car. It could be said that the journey was completely unobstructed. In just 10 minutes, they had successfully arrived at Jiangbei University. After returning to school, Lin Fan suddenly remembered that it was Sunday. He did not need to attend classes. Thus, Lin Fan simply did not go to the classroom, nor did he go back to his dormitory. Instead, he went straight to the parking lot. Yesterday, Lin Fan parked the Pagani Huayra in Ica City. Therefore, there were only the Lamborghini and the Mercedes-Benz G-Class car in the parking lot. Lin Fan opened the door of the Lamborghini and got in. He stepped on the accelerator and continued to drive forward. It was the weekend, so there were more cars on the road than usual. Lin Fan was stuck in the middle of the road and looked around in boredom. At this moment, a large LED display appeared in his field of vision. The International Perfume Exhibition welcomes you. When Lin Fan saw this, his eyes flickered. He had perfume expert skills, but he had never studied perfume. Also, Xiao Ziqian and Huang Ling seemed to like perfume. It would be nice to buy them some nice-smelling perfumes. Then, Lin Fan looked at the congested road in front of him and turned the car around without much hesitation. The International Perfume Exhibition was held in Jiangbei City's Star Cluster building. Lin Fan stood in front of the gate and sniffed the fragrance in the air. He looked at the crowd that was rushing in and followed them in. Most of the people who attended the International Perfume Exhibition were women or men who were shopping with women. It was rare to see a man like Lin Fan alone. However, Lin Fan did not care too much. He walked and watched, commenting and calculating in his heart. The International Perfume Exhibition was huge and had hundreds of booths. It attracted many international big brands, including Chanel, Dior, Lancôme, and so on. Many women were trying out the samples in front of different booths, discussing in low voices and laughing from time to time. The atmosphere of the entire exhibition was extremely relaxed and lively. Every time Lin Fan walked past a display booth, he could smell the scent of different brands of perfume. At the same time, the staff would hand over samples of perfume. He had only strolled around for a short while, but the number of perfume samples in Lin Fan's hands had already reached more than 10. Just like that, Lin Fan continued to walk forward. When he arrived at a perfume booth called Flower Stem, he stopped for a moment. This booth was obviously larger than the average booth, and the exterior design was very gentle and fashionable. There were many employees in the store, and they were all in high spirits. It was obvious that Flower Stem took the exhibition very seriously. However, Lin Fan was not too bothered with all these. From the moment he entered the International Perfume Exhibition, there was a unique fragrance that he had never smelled before as well as a slightly familiar fragrance. Lin Fan was a little curious as he slowly walked over to the exhibition booth. Soon, a sweet-looking sales assistant came over and asked with a smile, "Hello, how can I help you?" Lin Fan sniffed the air and was about to speak. At this time, a dissatisfied voice sounded not far away. A woman of medium build with heavy makeup called out, "What did you apply to me? Why do I smell so bad?" The round-faced man next to her chimed in, "Is this perfume or stinky water? Where did you get the face to sell it?" The sales assistant standing in front of them lowered her head and said in a panic, "Sir, madam, there must be a misunderstanding here." Even though that was what she said, she was clearly not confident enough. That was because the sales assistant had also smelled the pungent smell. What misunderstanding could it be? The woman with heavy makeup asked. "Quickly smell it. Is this a fragrance or a stench? I think you're a tourist trap." Then, she shouted, "Everyone, look. This is a tourist trap. Their perfume is stinky, so don't ever use their perfume." Hearing this, everyone around them looked over. Some of the people who were about to try the perfume quickly stepped aside. Soon, the huge Flower Stem booth became extremely deserted. At this moment, a staff member wearing a red armband walked over and asked, "What happened here?" The woman with heavy makeup walked up and said, "This is a fake shop. They're selling low-quality perfumes. They'll become smelly once sprayed. I've just put on their perfume. Quick, smell the scent on my body." In fact, before the woman with heavy makeup even got close, the staff member had already smelled the stench. When he got close, it made him have the urge to vomit. The staff member could not help but take 2 steps away from the woman with heavy makeup. Then, he reproached the sales assistant, "What's going on?" The sales assistant was also a little puzzled and could only say, "This. There must be some misunderstanding here. Bullshit. The round-faced man shouted. Some of the people around them also slowly smelled the stench. They either covered their noses or kept retreating. Some people even took photos of the booth from a distance. Clearly, they were preparing to tell their friends not to buy the perfumes from Flower Stem. Seeing this, the sales assistant was extremely anxious. It was the age of information. Once people labeled Flower Stem as a stinky perfume, it would have a great impact on the brand. The reason they set up a booth at the International Perfume Exhibition today was to improve the image and reputation of their perfumes, not to discredit them. Lin Fan, who had not said anything all this while, finally spoke, "Actually, this lady's stench has nothing to do with Flower Stem's perfume." When the woman with heavy makeup heard this, she felt like her tail had been stepped on. What did he mean by that? Not because of the perfume? Did that not mean to say that the stench came from her? The woman with heavy makeup shouted, "You're definitely one of Flower Stem's people, so, of course, you'd put in a good word for the brand. Everyone, don't believe him." Lin Fan did not answer the woman's question and said calmly, "Before you sprayed Flower Stem's perfume, you also used perfumes from Wind Fragrance, Moonlight, and other brands, right? These perfumes are made from rose, jasmine, orchid, Cape jasmine, and many other different scents. They're mixed using special methods to achieve certain smells. However, you won't smell good just because you put on more perfumes. It's like in a chemistry experiment. When some things exist alone, there won't be any changes. However, when they are mixed together, they will produce special changes." As he spoke, Lin Fan picked up a bottle of perfume from Flower Stem and opened the cap. "Smell it. There shouldn't be any stench, right?" The staff member placed it near his nose and sniffed it. The curious people around them sniffed the perfume as well. Indeed, they did not smell anything wrong with it. Lin Fan brought out perfume samples from Wind Fragrance, Moonlight, and other brands to let people smell them. Just as Lin Fan had said, the perfumes did not smell bad. Then, Lin Fan mixed the different perfumes together. Whoosh! In an instant, a pungent smell spread in all directions. F***CK. It's so stinky. It's too smelly. Blarg. Instantly, a wave of shouts rang out at the scene. Some people almost vomited. At this moment, everyone finally believed Lin Fan's words. This stench was caused by mixing different perfumes and not Flower Stem's perfume. The woman with heavy makeup and the round-faced man also understood that they were in the wrong. They lowered their heads and walked away without saying a word. Very quickly, Flower Stem's booth regained its calm. Lin Fan also felt that the stench was a little bad and used his hand to fan the air gently by his nose. Then, he opened the cap of Flower Stem's perfume and sprayed it all over his body. After a short while, the fragrance of Flower Stem's perfume covered the stench. The surroundings once again smelled good. The people who had smelled the stinky odor suddenly smelled a good fragrance. It was as if they had been walking in the desert for several days and had finally welcomed spring water. They felt extremely comfortable. As a result, they all gathered around Flower Stem's booth. At this moment, a crisp sound rang out beside Lin Fan. It was like the sound of a zither being played. "Thank you," she said. After Lin Fan heard the voice, he slowly turned around. He saw a beautiful woman walking over. Her skin was as fair as jade, and her facial features were as exquisite as porcelain. She was wearing a beige lace dress, which highlighted her perfect figure. Even Lin Fan's eyes lit up when he saw the beauty in front of him. At the same time, he could not help but compare her with the women he knew. Her appearance was comparable to Teacher Tiantian's. Her figure had even surpassed all the women he knew. Perhaps she was a legendary top-grade beauty. Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of truth to check her out. Face value, 98. Favorability, 60. An appearance of 98. Sure enough, her looks were already on par with Teacher Tiantian's. The beauty continued, "Thank you for your help. Otherwise, our Flower Stem would have been in trouble." Lin Fan replied, "I just did a small thing. Of course, the most important thing is that Flower Stem's perfumes aren't bad. By the way, are you also an employee of this brand?" he asked after a pause. "To be more precise, Flower Stem is the brand I created," the beauty said with a smile. "Let me introduce myself. My name is Chu Yunyue. It's a pleasure to meet you." As she spoke, she took the initiative to extend her hand. Lin Fan was stunned for a moment. He did not expect the other party to be the president of Flower Stem. After a long while, he reached out his hand and shook it lightly. "I'm Lin Fan said. Chu Yunyue could not help but ask, "Mr. Lin, I'm a little curious. Can you tell me how you knew that the perfumes from Wind Fragrance, Moonlight, and SE will produce a bad smell when mixed with Flower Stem?" She was the founder of Flower Stem and often studied perfume. However, even she did not expect that the mixture of 4 perfumes would produce such a foul smell. "Just smell it and you'll know," Lin Fan said casually. He could tell just by smelling it? What a joke! Chu Yunyue understood that Lin Fan had no intention of explaining. Therefore, she did not pursue this issue any further. "Mr. Lin, would you like to know more about our perfumes?" Chu Yunyue asked. Lin Fan nodded and pointed to a bottle of perfume with an ancient concubine's picture on it. "Can I take a look at that bottle of perfume?" Chu Yunyue looked in the direction he was pointing at. She seemed to have thought of something, and her delicate body trembled slightly. "Of course, you can," she said. Lin Fan opened the lid of the perfume and waved his hand over it. Immediately, an elegant and somewhat familiar smell slowly drifted over. Teacher Tian. After a while, Lin Fan finally understood why it smelled familiar. Teacher Tian had this kind of smell. It turned out that she liked to use this perfume. Then, Lin Fan pointed to a perfume in a light yellow bottle not far away and said, "Let me have a sniff of that too." "This perfume is called Love Heart," Chu Yunyue said with a smile. "It's Flower Stem's newest product. Love Heart has 7 different fragrances. It's like a rainbow, colorful yet different. Lin Fan nodded his head and sniffed it: chrysanthemums, honeysuckles, osmanthus. When Xu Yunyue heard Lin Fan's words, her beautiful eyes flickered. That was because the flowers that Lin Fan mentioned were the exact ingredients that made up Love Heart. He had only sniffed it once, and he actually knew everything. This was too unbelievable, right? Previously, when Lin Fan said that he could tell that 4 different perfumes would give off a foul smell by just smelling them, Xu Yunyue thought that he was joking. At that moment, Xu Yunyue finally understood that everything Lin Fan said was true. Lin Fan's understanding of perfumes had probably reached a height that ordinary people could not reach. At this moment, Lin Fan opened another bottle of perfume and raised his hand to slowly fan the fragrance. He sniffed it and said, jasmine, lily, orchid. Once again, Lin Fan listed out the ingredients of the perfume in full. Guessing it right once could be considered a matter of luck or coincidence. It was the same if he did it the second time. However, he had done it 3 times in a row. He had done the impossible. This was strength. Xu Yunyue's beautiful eyes stared at Lin Fan without blinking. She looked at Lin Fan gently waving his hand to lift the fragrance and slowly smelling it. Finally, he mentioned the ingredients. Xu Yunyue was stunned. In Xu Yunyue's eyes, it was as if Lin Fan was not even sniffing the perfume. Instead, he had transformed into a god who was taking care of the flowers with a faint golden glow around his body. A perfume expert with infinite charm. At this moment, Lin Fan finally put down the perfume in his hand and nodded. The perfume is not bad. After Xu Yunyue heard his voice, she came back to her senses and said, "Thank you for your affirmation of our flower stem. I wonder if you have any suggestions for flower stem?" Lin Fan thought for a moment and said, "I suggest that the first bottle of perfume should focus on evoking a sense of mystery. It's supposed to contend with Chanel, but it lacks a bit of charm. As for the second bottle, it should be aimed to contend with Guerlain, but it lacks a kind of vitality and refreshing feeling." When Xu Yunyue heard Lin Fan's words, she was stunned. That was because, after some careful consideration, she realized that what Lin Fan said was completely right. These were indeed the flaws of flower stem. Talent. This was definitely the most outstanding talent she had ever seen. Xu Yunyue hurriedly said, "Our flower stem is still lacking a technical director. I wonder if you're interested in joining us. The salary and treatment will definitely be to your satisfaction." Technical director? Why would the current Lin Fan need a job? The reason why he went to Zhengbei University was just to experience life. As for the salary? What would his monthly salary be? 100,000? 1 million? He was not attracted at all. One had to know that Lin Fan could earn a minimum of 1.4 million yuan every day. In the future, he would earn even more. "I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in this job," Lin Fan replied. "I'm still a student," he added after a pause. A student? Xu Yunyue was stunned. Lin Fan had researched perfume to such an extent, but he was still a student? This was simply. It was beyond her imagination. However, judging from his youth, he did look like a student. "Yes, I'm studying at Zhengbei University." Lin Fan nodded. At the mention of Zhengbei University, Xu Yunyue's eyes flickered. After a while, she said, "So, you're a student. Students should put their studies first." Lin Fan nodded. He picked a few different types of perfumes and prepared to leave. "Right, can I save your contact number?" Xu Yunyue asked. Lin Fan nodded his head indifferently. With a soft ring, the two of them successfully added each other on WeChat. When Lin Fan arrived at Ika City, he immediately took out 2 bottles of perfume. Xiao Ziqian sniffed it and said, "They smell so good. Honey, are these for us?" Lin Fan smiled. "If they're not for you, who else can I give them to? Here, the red one is for Ziqian, and the yellow one is for Huangling." "That's great." Zhou Ziqian and Huang Ling were overjoyed. Very quickly, room 2501 began to shake violently. He had no sleep tonight. The next day, the sky was clear. After Lin Fan finished his breakfast, he went to Jiangbei University. At this time, Jiangbei University welcomed an important guest. The leader of Jiangbei City, Zhao Yang, was visiting Jiangbei University. He was accompanied by the chancellor and dean. Behind them was a large group of reporters with cameras and microphones. They visited the tall library, the newly entered laboratory, and the brand new stadium. I heard that there's a genius at Jiangbei University recently. Not only did he win the higher education cup, but he also solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture, Zhao Yang suddenly said. Although Zhao Yang was the leader of Jiangbei and had to work hard every day, he knew what these mathematics achievements meant. Chancellor Shen Liang said, "Yes, that's right. Good, good. He's brought honor to both Jiangbei University and Jiangbei City. He must be rewarded." Zhao Yang called out happily. Shen Liang said, "You're right. We've already applied for 500,000 yuan prize money from the school, and we're going to give it to him later." What? Zhao Yang frowned. Didn't you prepare a big award ceremony? Aren't you going to have the reporters attend it? One had to know. Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture were both world-class problems. Now that a student had successfully solved it, this was definitely a good opportunity to promote the school and show off the school's strength. In Zhao Yang's eyes, the award ceremony was the best opportunity to promote this. However, Shen Liang did not seem to have such intentions. Hu Chuan, who was standing at the side, took a step forward and explained, "This student doesn't like to be on camera, so we've temporarily cancelled these sorts of activities." Zhao Yang's brows furrowed even more. One should announce the glory one obtained. What's the use of just quietly winning an award? We're going to make him a role model for the school and even for the whole country. He alone can influence countless people. This way, he will be able to display his value to a greater extent. Every year, we select the top 10 most outstanding young people in Jiangbei. He needs to set a good example and influence more people. As for him not liking to be on camera, you're all his teachers and professors. It shouldn't be difficult for you to persuade him, right? Zhao Yang said so much in a row. It was obvious that he was very concerned about this matter. At the same time, he was a little disappointed with Hu Chuan and the others' choice to only give out a prize reward. Vice-Chancellor Feng Weijin, who was standing beside him, said, "What you said makes so much sense. The purpose of our education is not to create a single talent but to create countless talents. Setting an example is the best way for more people to break through their limits and improve themselves. It's the best way to become useful talents." Before this, that student said that he didn't want to be on camera, so we chose to give up and didn't pursue it anymore. This is indeed our fault. You're right, leader. When Feng Weijin first learned that Lin Fan had solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture, his first thought was to invite a large number of reporters to the school to conduct individual interviews with Lin Fan. They would also do self-media coverage and press conferences to promote this matter to the greatest extent. They could use this opportunity to expand the reputation and influence of Jiangbei University. However, this was rejected by the dean of the mathematics department, Hu Chuan, who said that Lin Fan did not like to be on camera. Chancellor Shen Liang also supported Hu Chuan's actions. Feng Weijin could not help but feel indignant. Now that the leader of Jiangbei City had mentioned the interviews in publicity, Feng Weijin naturally agreed. Zhao Yang gave Feng Weijin a look of approval. Actually, I'm here to visit Jiangbei University and also to give him a 500,000 yuan bonus. After all, we, Jiangbei, have always valued talents. In fact, this was the main reason why Zhao Yang had chosen to visit Jiangbei University today. Zhao Yang wanted to personally present the prize money. It was a rare opportunity for him to show his face. Let me thank you on the students' behalf, Feng Weijin said excitedly. When the reporters behind him heard this, their faces lit up with joy. The reporters had long known that a student from Jiangbei University had solved 2 world-level problems and had wanted to come to interview him. However, they were rejected by the school. Jiangbei University even banned the media from interviewing Lin Fan. However, they did not expect to have the chance today. This could be said to be Lin Fan's first exclusive interview, and he would definitely get the attention of countless people. "Where is he?" Zhao Yang asked. Feng Weijin thought for a moment and said, "He should be in the classroom now." "Great leader, please have some tea in the conference room and rest for a while. He'll be here soon." Hu Chuan still wanted to object. However, since Feng Weijin had already said that, how could he object? He had no choice but to silently walk toward the meeting room with the others. They had not walked for long when a tall figure suddenly appeared not far away. Hu Chuan's murky eyes moved slightly. He raised his voice and said, "Lin Fan, please wait a moment." Lin Fan, who was walking not far away, stopped in his tracks. "Lin Fan?" The leader of Jiangbei, Zhao Yang, who was standing in front of Lin Fan, suddenly felt that the name Lin Fan was familiar. It was as if he had heard it before. He could not help but look in the direction that Hu Chuan had called out to. He happened to see Lin Fan's back and felt that this back seemed familiar. Finally, Lin Fan slowly turned around. As soon as he turned around, Zhao Yang's eyes widened. It was him. It was actually him. Yesterday, when Zhao Yang and the leaders of Jiang province learned that Qin Weiming, Elder Qin, had come to Jiangbei, they immediately rushed over to welcome him. He still clearly remembered how polite Elder Qin was to this young man. He wanted Lin Fan to sit beside him. He even personally gave a toast to Lin Fan. In the end, he even ordered the big shot with the badge to personally drive Lin Fan back. Zhao Yang. In fact, everyone present had tried to guess Lin Fan's identity, but they had no clue at all. Now, he had actually met him at Jiangbei University. At this time, Song Yi happened to be holding a basketball and walking over from a distance, covered in sweat. "Brother Lin Fan, when are we going to play basketball together again?" "Let's play next time," Lin Fan said. "I'll remember that," Song Yi said happily. In Song Yi's opinion, playing basketball with Lin Fan was torture to their opponents. Song Yi, on the other hand, liked to torture people. When Song Yi turned around, he saw the dean of the mathematics department, Hu Chuan, and the others. "Hello, Dean Hu," he quickly greeted. Even though around Hu Chuan were Chancellor Shen Liang, Vice-Chancellor Feng Weijin, and even Jiangbei City's leader, Zhao Yang, Song Yi was just a young man and did not know them at all. The reason he knew Hu Chuan was that he had personally gone to their dormitory not long ago. Lin Fan seemed to have just remembered that Hu Chuan had called him and asked, "Dean Hu, is there anything I can help you with?" Hu Chuan opened his mouth, but no words came out. Lin Fan had clearly expressed that he did not want to be interviewed. If he asked him to accept interviews now, what if Lin Fan grew to hate him? What should they do if Lin Fan left Jiangbei University? Lin Fan did not have to stay at Jiangbei University. For a math genius like him, no matter which school he went to, they would definitely fight for him. Vice-Chancellor Feng Weijin, who was standing behind him, did not think so much. "Lin Fan, this is Leader Zhao of Jiangbei City." He quickly introduced. The leader values talents very much. He learned that you won the Higher Education Cup, and then solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture, so he specially brought reporters from Jiangbei's TV stations to interview you and personally award you a prize. Go and say hi to Leader Zhao. At this point, Feng Weijin's tone became extremely high. He looked as if the big leader was going to give him a bonus. Song Yi, who was standing next to him, widened his eyes in surprise. The leader of Jiangbei City? He was definitely a big shot. In addition, there were also reporters from Jiangbei's TV stations? Lin Fan did not think too much about it. He frowned and said, "Interviews? I don't like to be interviewed." Feng Weijian's smile froze slightly when he heard that. Was he not clear enough just now? He actually rejected him directly? Lin Fan was not giving him the big leader face. At the thought of this, Feng Weijian's face darkened slightly, and he was about to say something. At this time, Zhao Yang hurried over and said, "If Lin Fan doesn't like being interviewed, then let's not do it. It's the right choice not to be interviewed. Once he gives interviews, I'm afraid that his life and studies will be greatly affected. This is very bad for him." Everyone was stunned by his words. Did Zhao Yang not just say that Lin Fan should announce his honor? Did he not say that Lin Fan would become a role model for the school, Zhongbei City, and even the whole country? Did he not say that if a student did not like to be on camera, the teachers and professors had to persuade them? What was the situation now? Why was he saying that not giving interviews was the right choice? Accepting these interviews would even have a great impact on Lin Fan's life and studies? What was going on? Zhao Yang did not pay any attention to the dumbfounded crowd. He turned to the reporters in the distance and shouted, "Everyone, stop filming. If you've captured any images of Lin Fan, delete them immediately." In Zhao Yang's heart, Lin Fan's background was extremely mysterious. What if he was someone who could not appear on television, and he caused Lin Fan to be exposed? The consequences. They were absolutely terrifying. Of course, even if that was not the case, just the fact that Lin Fan did not like to be interviewed was enough for him to stop the reporters from interviewing Lin Fan. The reporters in the distance trembled in fear. They quickly deleted all the images and recordings they had taken. Seeing this, Zhao Yang let out a sigh of relief. He bent over and said in a flattering tone, "I've long heard that a math genius has appeared in Zhongbei. It's my fault for not coming here until now. Please don't blame me." Everyone present was completely stunned. What was going on? It was rare for a leader of Zhongbei City to visit a student from the University of Zhongbei. Now, he actually took the initiative to greet him and even apologize to Lin Fan? What was going on? Lin Fan looked at Zhao Yang and quickly remembered that he had seen him at Zhongbei Grand Hotel the day before. "You're too kind, leader," he said. "That sounds too distant. I'm just a little older than you, so you can call me Old Zhao if you don't mind," Zhao Yang said. The leader of Zhongbei City asked to be addressed as Old Zhao? Everyone's mouth was wide open, and their faces were blank. "Then I'll call you Brother Zhao," Lin Fan said after some thought. After all, he addressed the leader of Qing City, Zhao Zheqi, as Brother Zhao. Hearing this, Zhao Yang's face revealed a touch of joy. "If that's the case, then I'll have to call you Little Brother Lin." He then said, "First of all, congratulations on solving Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture. Zhongbei City has prepared a small prize. I hope you can accept it." Then, he handed Lin Fan a check for 500,000. Lin Fan was not short of money now, but this was someone's good intention after all. He reluctantly accepted the check and said, "Thank you, Brother Zhao." You're welcome," Zhao Yang said. Then, Zhao Yang continued to find topics to talk about with Lin Fan. Suddenly, Zhao Yang's phone rang. Now that Zhao Yang had finally managed to talk to Lin Fan, how could he be willing to be disturbed? He picked up his phone and was about to hang up. However, when he saw the caller ID, he hesitated. "Little Brother Lin, I have to take this call first." "Brother Zhao, please do as you wish," Lin Fan said nonchalantly. Hearing this, Zhao Yang answered the call. "What? How did this happen?" "Alright, I got it." Zhao Yang's face scrunched up after he hung up. "Brother Zhao, you can go and deal with your matters." "I have to go to class," Lin Fan said. "Then I'll meet up with you next time," Zhao Yang said. After he finished speaking, he quickly walked away. Clearly, he did have something to deal with. Chancellor Xin Liang, Dean Hu Chuan, and Vice-Chancellor Feng Weijian looked at Lin Fan deeply. They opened their mouths as if they wanted to ask something. However, in the end, they did not open their mouths. They only said their goodbyes and gradually left. Soon, only Lin Fan and Song Yi, who was in a daze, remained. Lin Fan patted Song Yi's shoulder and said, "What are you doing? Let's go to the classroom." Song Yi came back to his senses and could not help but say, "Brother Lin Fan, are you one of the legendary 4 young masters of the capital?" Song Yi saw everything that just happened. The leader of Jiangbei City was so polite to Lin Fan. He even called him Little Brother Lin. Just how terrifying was Lin Fan's identity? Song Yi could not help but associate Lin Fan with the 4 young masters of Jingbei that he had read about in novels. The 4 young masters of Jingbei? Lin Fan asked. "I'm the crown prince of the capital." Hiss. When Song Yi heard this, he gasped. Obviously, he took it seriously. Lin Fan looked at Song Yi's serious expression and could not help but laugh. When Lin Fan and Song Yi returned to the dormitory, there was no one there. Song Yi then remembered and said anxiously, "Oh no, we have missed Tiantian's class." After saying that, he hurriedly grabbed a clean set of clothes and rushed into the bathroom. Then, there was a burst of splashing sound in the bathroom. Song Yi would never allow himself to go to Teacher Tiantian's class with a body full of sweat. When Lin Fan heard the name Teacher Tian, he could not help but think back to the day when he went to her house. His heart started to beat faster. "Take it slow. Don't rush," he said after a while. However, Lin Fan's words did not have any effect. On the contrary. It also made Song Yi shower and change his clothes even faster. In just a few minutes, Song Yi had already put on his shoes. He said anxiously, "I don't know if Shang Jinbao and Mai Zhong saved us seats." All of Tiantian's classes were packed. Today was no exception. Zhang Jinbao and Mai Zhong were still very reliable. They had already saved them seats. As soon as Song Yi and Lin Fan sat down, the sound of a bell rang out on the campus of Jiangbei University. Then, Hu Tian slowly walked in. Instantly, the entire classroom fell silent. The students' moods fluctuated along with the change in Hu Tian's tone. In the eyes of the students, Hu Tian was like a star in the sky, bright and dazzling. In the blink of an eye, the morning class came to an end. Although the students were reluctant, they could only leave slowly. The canteen was as crowded as usual. At that moment, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. 12 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 100 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've gained professional level English. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 1 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 1,000 yuan. This time, Lin Fan received 30,211 yuan. He did not pay any attention to this and directly set his eyes on professional level English. Professional level English, be it listening, writing, reading, or singing, it's all at your fingertips. Showing off your professional level of English can also show your charm. Lin Fan muttered in his heart, "If only I had this skill in high school." It was the old professor's class again in the afternoon. Last night, Lin Fan did not sleep at all. In addition, he had Hu Tian's class in the morning. Thus, he had not slept at all. At that moment, the old professor had just opened his mouth when Lin Fan closed his eyes and fell asleep. In fact, he was even snoring lightly. It was not that nobody else slept in class. However, it was really rare to see someone like Lin Fan, who started snoring right after class started. The entire classroom fell silent. All of them turned their gazes to Lin Fan, their faces filled with weird expressions. Under everyone's gaze, the old professor slowly walked down from the podium and came to Lin Fan's side. Everyone thought to themselves, Lin Fan is probably going to be in trouble. Song Yi, Jing Jinbao, and Mai Zhong, who were sitting at the side, could not help but want to wake Lin Fan up. However, they were stopped by the old professor's gaze. They saw the old professor doing the same thing as last time. He took off his coat and put it on Lin Fan. The old professor thought to himself, as expected, Lin Fan really loves to study. He tires himself out every night. Then, the old professor said in a low voice, "Let's change to another classroom for this class. When you go out, try to be quiet. Don't disturb Lin Fan's sleep." When the students heard this, the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. Don't disturb his sleep? Was this really what a teacher would say? Soon, Lin Fan was the only one left in the classroom. Meanwhile, Lin Fan's snores were echoing in the empty classroom. When a ray of sunlight shone through the window and landed on Lin Fan's face, he slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Mai Zhong, Sony, and Zhang Jinbao, who were surrounding him. He asked doubtfully, "Why are you all looking at me like that? Brother Lin Fan, you can't be Professor Li's illegitimate child, right?" Zhang Jinbao asked. Professor Li was the old professor who taught them in the afternoon. In fact, it was not just the three of them who had this suspicion. Many people in the class had the same suspicion. Illegitimate child? Lin Fan asked curiously. His surname is Li, my surname is Lin. Then why is Professor Li so good to you? Zhang Jinbao said. Lin Fan looked at the coat that was still on his body and immediately understood what the three of them were saying. Maybe it's because I'm handsome? At that moment, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. It turned out to be a WeChat message from teacher Tian Tian. Lin Fan, are you free later? Can you come to my office? Lin Fan waved his phone and smiled. See, I told you I'm more handsome. Teacher Tian Tian also likes looking for me. After Zhang Jinbao, Sony, and Mai Zhong saw Lin Fan's WeChat message, their eyes were a little red. Brother Lin Fan, I'll kneel down to you. You. They shouted. Lin Fan looked at the three of them and could not help but laugh. Lin Fan had already been to Hu Tian's office a few times. This time, he was very familiar with the place. Hu Tian was the only one in the office. The air was filled with an elegant and refreshing fragrance. Lin Fan thought to himself, as expected, teacher Tian Tian likes to use the perfume from flower stem. At this moment, Hu Tian, who had been bent over the desk writing, also noticed Lin Fan. She slowly raised her head and pointed at the tea beside her. Have some tea first. I'm indeed a little thirsty, Lin Fan said. Then, he picked up the cup and took a big gulp. The temperature of the tea was just right. There were lilies, jasmine, honey, and a little mint in it, making it sweet and delicious. How did you calculate this part? Hu Tian said as she flipped through the densely packed formulas. Lin Fan looked up. It was the solution for the twin prime number conjecture he had written at the report. After some thought, he took out a blank piece of draft paper and quickly wrote down very detailed steps. 1 to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus. And 1 to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus n1 equals 6n caret 2 plus 6n dash, 6n1 caret 2 plus 6n1 equals 12n. Even when he was writing calculations and formulas, Lin Fan's handwriting was still very graceful and carefree. Hu Tian looked at the pleasing handwriting and Lin Fan's serious expression, and she was a little dazed. In Hu Tian's eyes, Lin Fan did not seem to be writing down an equation at all. Instead, he seemed to be constructing a beautiful and magnificent palace. At this moment, it was as though Lin Fan had transformed into the god of creation. He was just so mesmerizing. Hu Tian could not help but slowly approach Lin Fan. The next moment, she leaned forward. The moon was bright, and the stars were few. That night, Lin Fan came to teacher Tian Tian's house again. He did not return for a night. The next day, Hu Tian did not have any classes in the morning, and she was too tired the previous night. After breakfast, she went back to bed. In order to let Hu Tian rest well, Lin Fan did not stay at her house for long. He went straight to Zhongbei University. In the morning, everyone in Zhongbei was in a hurry to get to work, so the roads were very congested. Even with Lin Fan's professional driving skills, it still took him more than half an hour to reach the school. In the morning, Lin Fan lay on the table and slept. Lin Fan only opened his eyes slowly after the crisp ringing of the bell. When he was eating in the cafeteria, his phone vibrated as usual. 12 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 2 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 19,999 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've gained professor-level chemistry skills. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 3 yuan. Lin Fan received a total of 50,198 yuan and professor-level chemistry skills. Professor-level chemistry skills: hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, baronium, cyan, oxygen, neon. You possess a profound knowledge of chemistry and display extraordinary charm. Seeing this, Lin Fan's face was filled with a weird expression. Before, he received professional-level English, academician-level mathematics skills, and professor-level physics skills. Today, he gained professor-level chemistry skills. Did this really make him a super genius? When Lin Fan walked back to his dormitory, his phone vibrated again. It turned out to be a message from the founder of Flower Stem, Chu Yunyue. Chu Yunyue, Lin Fan, our flower stem has newly redeveloped Love Heart. If you're free, can you come to our company to comment on it? Lin Fan's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. He had the skills of a perfume expert. He was indeed interested in nice-smelling perfumes. Also, Lin Fan had slept for almost the entire morning and was full of energy. He had just been considering whether he should go to class in the afternoon, but after seeing this message, he did not hesitate much and replied directly. Lin Fan replied, "Okay, I'll come over later." After Lin Fan exchanged some words with his 3 roommates, he walked straight to the parking lot. When will I be able to be like brother Lin Fan? Zheng Jinbao sighed. You can do it in class later, Song Yi said. Why? Zheng Jinbao asked. Because you can dream during class, Song Yi said. Zheng Jinbao was speechless. Flower Stem Corporation was located on the 17th floor of the Feiyan building in the center of Jianbei City. Lin Fan had just taken the elevator up when he was greeted by a fragrant smell. A quiet, beautiful woman with proper facial features was sitting at the front desk. May I ask if there's anything I can help with? She asked with a smile. I'm here to look for Chu Yunyue. My name is Lin Fan said. Hello, Mr. Lin. Our president has already informed us of your arrival. This way, please. The beautiful woman's tone became even more friendly. At the same time, she secretly sized up Lin Fan as if she was trying to guess his relationship with Chu Yunyue. Flower Stem's R&D center took up nearly a third of the company's area. There were many sealed bottles here, and each bottle contained a different perfume. At that moment, Chu Yunyue and a few other researchers were working meticulously. There was a knock on the door. Chu Yunyue stopped what she was doing and said, "Please come in." When she saw that it was Lin Fan, her beautiful eyes immediately lit up. She said happily, "Lin Fan, you've come at the right time. Come and take a look, this is our new Love Heart." Wait, no. Let's go to my office and rest for a while. We'll have some coffee or tea. Clearly, Chu Yunyue felt that since Lin Fan was a guest, she should first treat him well. Lin Fan smiled. No need. I'm not thirsty. I'll take a whiff of the perfume first. Then, he pointed at the yellow glass bottle in Chu Yunyue's hand and asked, "Is this the new Love Heart?" "Yes, it is." Chu Yunyue nodded. She saw that Lin Fan did not want to drink anything, so she did not force him and handed him the new Love Heart. Lin Fan slowly opened the bottle. Instantly, a sweet and refreshing fragrance wafted over. Lin Fan nodded and said, "You've added mint, osmanthus." The perfume is refreshing and sweet, evoking a stronger sense of youth and love. Even though Chu Yunyue had seen Lin Fan's extraordinary ability with perfume not long ago and felt that it was a pity he could not join her company, now that she saw it again, she could not help but be amazed and fascinated. It's a pity that there were some problems with the steps and dosage of the perfume, Lin Fan continued. Otherwise, it might be comparable to Guerlain and the other brands. Chu Yunhua quickly asked, "What are the problems? Can I trouble you to take a look and improve the product?" Her tone was so urgent and without a trace of doubt. It was as though Lin Fan's words were the truth. This was normal. That was because Chu Yunhua had been able to develop the new love heart in such a short time, all because of Lin Fan's advice at the perfume exhibition. Then, Chu Yunhua seemed to have realized something and said, "I'm sorry, I was a little presumptuous just now. If you don't have the time, I'll study it slowly." After all, Lin Fan had refused to be the technical director. It was already very rare for him to come to Flower Stem's headquarters. As for Lin Fan, he was quite interested in making perfumes. "I have some free time," he said with a smile. "If it's convenient, I'd like to take a look at the process of you making the perfume." "For sure," Chu Yunhua said happily. Then, Chu Yunhua led Lin Fan to a large experiment table. On top of the experiment table, there were conical bottles, U-shaped tubes, alcohol lamps, iron stands, dripping tubes, and other equipment, as well as various raw materials for making perfume. Chu Yunhua said to the research and development staff, "You guys, complete the new love heart once." At this time, there were 4 women and 2 men in the research and development center. Among them, a tall and thin man named Zhao Jixiong, who was about 27 or 28 years old, hesitated for a moment before saying, "President, love heart is our flower stem's secret product." Although he did not finish his sentence, his meaning was already very clear. Lin Fan was not an employee of their company, and he did not sign a confidentiality agreement. If he were to leak it, it would be too late for regrets. How could Chu Yunhua not understand what he meant? She frowned slightly and said sternly, "The reason why our flower stem has a new love heart is because of Lin Fan. You don't have to keep it a secret from him. All you need to do is to show Lin Fan the complete steps of creating the new love heart." It was not easy for Lin Fan to come to the company, and Chu Yunhua did not want to put their relationship at stake. Chu Yunhua did not want Lin Fan to be unhappy because of Zhao Jixiong's words. The researchers present could also hear Chu Yunhua's displeasure. Therefore, they did not say anything more and followed the steps strictly to make the perfume. Normally, it would take a few weeks to produce a finished perfume. However, Flower Stem had all kinds of pure flower liquid, which saved a lot of time. In just 2 hours, a new bottle of love heart appeared in front of Lin Fan. Lin Fan sniffed the newly made love heart and said, "I'll also make one." "Then I'll get them to help you," Chu Yunhua said. Lin Fan shook his head and said, "No need. I can do it myself." Lin Fan walked to the front of the experiment table. First, he cleaned the conical flask, the drip tube, the beaker, and all the other equipment. Then, he placed them in order. Then, he poured the raw materials and solution into the round flask. He gently shook it, and a small vortex was vaguely formed. The equipment was connected to U-shaped tubes, liquid dividing funnels, a pump generator, a distillation kettle, and other devices. Then, he placed the round-bottom flask under the alcohol lamp. Previously, Chu Yunhua suggested asking the researchers for help because she was worried that Lin Fan was just a perfume theorist who was not good at practical operations. However, after seeing Lin Fan's series of production techniques and steps, she was completely shocked. Pre-processing, mixing, aging, freezing, filtering, and hardening. His movements were well practiced and precise. Even she, as well as all the researchers of Flower Stem, could not compare. In particular, his control and mastery of various experimental equipment far surpassed everyone else. Chu Yunhua had once invited a chemistry professor from a certain university to conduct experiments for Flower Stem. However, even that professor seemed to be inferior to Lin Fan. In Chu Yunhua's eyes, Lin Fan was not even making perfume, but was painting a masterpiece. She sighed in her heart. "Lin Fan, just who are you?" Swish. At this time, a refreshing fragrance slowly drifted over, making Chu Yunhua feel refreshed. Then, Lin Fan brought a pale yellow bottle to her. The new love heart that he had created was completed. Chu Yunue could not help but look at the time. 90 minutes. The 6 researchers spent a full 2 hours. Lin Fan had only used 90 minutes. Chu Yunue's entire pretty face was filled with unconcealable shock. This is the new love heart that I made. Smell it, Lin Fan said. Ah. All right. Chu Yunue quickly hid her surprise and slowly opened the bottle. Immediately, a rich but not pungent fragrance hit her face. In addition, the fragrance carried a touch of freshness, giving people the feeling that they were in a cluster of flowers. There was even a breeze blowing by their ears from time to time. It was an incomparable enjoyment. After a long time, Chu Yunue said excitedly, "It's fragrant, it's really too fragrant. This is the best scent I've ever smelled." Lin Fan, thank you. I've never personally made perfume before, Lin Fan said. I've had my fun today, so you don't have to be too polite. Chu Yunue directly focused on the first part of his sentence. He had never made perfume himself? How was that possible? One had to know that Lin Fan's perfume-making technique was even more skilled and professional than the R&D staff. Lin Fan continued, "Oh right, you said that Love Heart has a total of 7 perfumes?" Yes. Chu Yunue nodded repeatedly. I'll go and get the other 6 perfumes for you to smell. Very quickly, red, green, blue, purple, white, and gray perfume bottles were placed in front of Lin Fan. Lin Fan opened the 6 bottles of perfume one by one and took a good whiff of them. He immediately had an idea. There are some areas that can be improved in the ingredients and processes of these perfumes, Lin Fan said. Really? Chu Yunue asked excitedly. Love Heart was a perfume series that Chu Yunue had spent a lot of effort to create. After Lin Fan's modification, the yellow bottle's fragrance had obviously increased by a level. If Lin Fan could improve the other 6 perfumes, he would definitely be able to make the Love Heart series famous. Lin Fan nodded. Yes, it's a little late today. I'll come to Flower Stem tomorrow to take a look. Chu Yunue's entire pretty face revealed a joy that was difficult to hide. It is late today, Lin Fan. Can we have dinner together? She added. All right, Lin Fan replied casually. Then, the two of them walked out together. The researcher, Zhao Zhishong, looked at the back of the 2 people walking away, and his face revealed a touch of resentment. Not long after, Lin Fan and Chu Yunue arrived at a private kitchen that was not far from the Feiyang building. The shop had a small bridge and flowing water, which looked very elegant. The dishes were beautiful, exquisite, and delicious. Lin Fan nodded his head as he ate. He was obviously quite satisfied. Then, he poured himself a glass of wine from the private kitchen. First, he swayed the glass a little. Then, he slowly poured the content into his mouth. Lin Fan closed his eyes as if he was savoring the taste of the wine. This action was very simple. However, it made Chu Yunue a little dazed. That was because in Chu Yunue's eyes, Lin Fan did not seem to be drinking wine. Instead, he looked like a nobleman sitting in a tall and luxurious castle, carefully savoring the top wine brewed by his own winery 100 years ago. Unlimited charm from drinking gentlemen is triggered. At this moment, Lin Fan opened his eyes. In an instant, their eyes met. Chu Yunue seemed to have been caught red-handed stealing. She quickly lowered her head, and her entire face turned red. Lin Fan did not mind and said, "It's smooth and sweet when it goes down the throat. The grapes used are not bad, but it's a pity that the brewing time is a little short. Otherwise, the taste could have been even mellower." Some people like to show off their knowledge, pretending to know everything and be very awesome. However, Chu Yunue could not hear any hint of showing off from Lin Fan's tone. There was only sincere appreciation and lament. Chu Yunue could not help but think to herself, Lin Fan not only has such a deep understanding of perfume, but he also has such a deep understanding of wine. Is there anything he doesn't know? Was he really just a young man in his 20s? At that moment, in Chu Yunyue's eyes, Lin Fan's body seemed to be blooming with a seven-colored light, but it also seemed to be covered in a thick fog. It was extremely mysterious. Chu Yunyue only came back to her senses after a long while and said, "Lin Fan, I know you don't want to be a technical director. However, your improvement on Love Heart will indeed be of great help to our flower stem. I'm going to transfer 10% of the shares to you to compensate you for your time. I hope you don't mind." Lin Fan wanted to reject it. He really wanted to say that the reason why he could improve Love Heart was really just because he had nothing to do and wanted to try making perfumes. However, Lin Fan looked at Chu Yunyue's serious expression and casually agreed. Well, it would not matter if he had more shares. In the next few days, Lin Fan frequently went to Flower Stem. Every day, Lin Fan would make a few sets of perfume, which was enough to satisfy him. At the same time, Lin Fan also taught Chu Yunyue the specific improvement plans for the 7 types of Love Heart perfumes. Now, as long as they could mass-produce the 7 Love Heart perfumes, design the advertisements, and promote them well, they would be officially launched. Today, Chu Yunyue and Lin Fan went to the same private kitchen to have dinner as usual. At first, Chu Yunyue admired Lin Fan. She admired his understanding of perfume. However, as time went by, there was a different feeling to it besides appreciation. The night gradually deepened. At Flower Stem, a figure quietly entered Chu Yunyue's office. He turned on the computer and copied all the information on Love Heart and Flower Stem into his hard drive. Through the weak light of the computer screen, a figure's face was reflected. It was the researcher, Zhao Zhisheng. That night, Lin Fan did not go to Ika City. Instead, he returned to the school's dormitory. At this time, Jing Jinbao was watching the live broadcast, and from time to time, he would let out a burst of laughter. Song Yi was playing a game while Ma Zhong was reading a book. The atmosphere of the entire dormitory was very harmonious and relaxed. Lin Fan took a sip of water and turned his attention to the system. Level, LV5. Level 5 reward, 20 yuan for every breath, 20 yuan for every second of sleep, 20 yuan for every step taken. Rewards are distributed at 12 a.m. daily. Upgrade cost, 7.5 million/50 million, not including gifts and gambling. In addition, all items obtained from the system are prohibited from being traded. Skills, professional driving skills, charming aura, 5% chance to trigger love at first sight, unforgettable memory, violent aesthetics, drinking gentleman, absolute focus, 10% chance to trigger a flash of inspiration, professor-level mathematics experience. Professor-level chemistry skills. Funds, 161 million. At that moment, Lin Fan's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID. It was Lin Xiaoyao. "Lil Yao, have you been eating enough? Has your face gotten rounder?" Lin Fan said. "Brother, you're doing it again." Lin Xiaoyao protested. The two of them chatted for a while. Lin Xiaoyao said, "Brother, Mom and Dad are discussing throwing Grandpa's 70th birthday party. Do you have time to come back in the next 2 days?" "Of course, I'll go back." Lin Fan did not hesitate at all. One had to know. When Lin Fan was young, his family was very poor. In order for Lin Fan to be able to study, his parents went out to work together when he was very young. It could be said that before Lin Fan entered high school, he was living with his grandparents in the countryside. Therefore, Lin Fan had a very close relationship with his grandparents. After that, Lin Fan's family moved to Qing City. Originally, Lin Fan's family wanted to bring his grandparents over to live with them. However, Grandpa and Grandma were used to life in the countryside, so the grandfather and grandson rarely saw each other. Now that his family was going to throw his grandfather's 70th birthday party, Lin Fan naturally would not miss it. "Hee hee, I knew you'd be there," Lin Xiaoyao said. By the way, brother, I saw on People's Daily that a student from Jiangbei University solved 2 world-class math problems. Furthermore, that student actually has the same name as you. He's also called Lin Fan. Logically speaking, for someone like Lin Fan who had solved 2 questions in the world of mathematics, photos and videos of him would have been spread all over the internet. However, under Lin Fan's request and with the help of the leaders of Jiangbei City and the University of Jiangbei, they managed to prevent this from happening. People's Daily could not turn a blind eye to this honor. Although Lin Fan's photos were not released, his name was mentioned. Lin Xiaoyao happened to see this news not too long ago. She had a deep impression of the name that was the same as her brother's. "Oh, I'm the Lin Fan you're talking about," Lin Fan said. "What?" Lin Xiaoyao's tone was full of doubt. Even though Lin Xiaoyao knew that Lin Fan's grades were very good in the past, she definitely would not think that Lin Fan had solved 2 of the world's most difficult math problems. That was because even if Lin Fan was good at his studies, he would only be able to get into a top university. "I just said that the person who solved 2 of the world's most difficult math problems is me," Lin Fan continued. There was no sound from the phone. "Lil Yao?" Lin Fan asked. "Brother, is what you just said real?" Lin Xiaoyao asked. "Yeah," Lin Fan said. F***CK. F***CK. Lin Xiaoyao shouted. After Lin Fan found out about his grandfather's 70th birthday, he was not in the mood to continue with his lessons. Ever since Lin Fan solved Zhou's conjecture and the twin prime number conjecture, all the teachers agreed that he could skip class at will. However, Lin Fan still called his counselor, Sun Yaodong, to ask for leave. After that, he called his parents to tell them about the chef and ingredients for his grandfather's birthday. He would arrange everything. He wanted his grandfather's birthday to be grand and lively. Then, Lin Fan went straight to Jiangbei Grand Hotel. A few days ago, Lin Fan had come here for a meal. Even if it was just a normal side dish, it was still delicious. Obviously, the chef of Jiangbei Grand Hotel was very good at cooking. Therefore, Lin Fan thought of inviting a few chefs from Jiangbei Grand Hotel to help with his grandfather's birthday banquet. When Lin Fan entered Jiangbei Grand Hotel, he said to the attendant, "Get your manager here." The attendant hesitated for a moment. After all, not everyone could meet the manager just because they wanted to. However, after he saw Lin Fan's face, he quickly remembered that he had come to eat with Elder Qin and the others not long ago. Thus, the attendant quickly ran to the manager's office. After a while, a middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses ran over. That day, the attendant had only taken a quick glance at Lin Fan, but he had remembered his face. The manager had been leading the way and had even helped to deliver the dishes a few times. He also remembered Lin Fan's appearance clearly. It was no wonder he remembered Lin Fan's face. Too many important people had come to that meal. Lin Fan was the only young man among the big shots. In the end, he even sat next to Elder Qin. It was impossible for the manager to forget such a special person even if he wanted to. "Hello, my name is Zhang Shanfeng. You can call me Lil Zhang. Do you have any orders?" The manager bowed slightly and asked respectfully. "I'm Lin Fan. I'm making preparations for my grandfather's birthday party. I would like to hire a few chefs from your restaurant to host a banquet for 2 days. I wonder if it's okay with you, Manager Zhang?" Lin Fan asked directly. If it were an ordinary person who raised such a question, Zhang Shanfeng would definitely curse out and ask them to get out. Hire a few chefs from the restaurant? How could one even have the galls to make such a request? Were they kidding? Did they not know where they were? However, Zhang Shanfeng's face was filled with joy at Lin Fan's request. "It's our honor that you've taken a liking to our chefs," he said without hesitation. Honored? That was right. With Lin Fan's status, it was indeed an honor that he had taken a liking to the food at Jiangbei Grand Hotel. Not long after, 3 chefs of medium build came to Lin Fan. Originally, Lin Fan wanted to pay Zhang Shanfeng the hiring fee. However, Zhang Shanfeng insisted on not accepting it, so Lin Fan could only give up. Then, Lin Fan and the three chefs went to Big Pot Vegetable Market. When the three chefs arrived, they were obviously surprised. Although the name of the vegetable market sounded old-fashioned, it was the most luxurious market in Jiangbei, also known as Market Number 1. There were all kinds of top-grade meat, fruits, and vegetables here. A bunch of ordinary-looking grapes cost a few hundred yuan. The three chefs already knew that their mission this time was to help hold a birthday banquet. In that case, they would definitely need to buy a lot of ingredients. These ingredients. Were they going to buy them all at Big Pot Vegetable Market? Very quickly, Lin Fan confirmed their thoughts. Let's buy ingredients for 30 tables first. 100,000 yuan per table, Lin Fan said. The three chefs were stunned again. Clearly, they were still in disbelief. 100,000 yuan per table. Even in a 5-star hotel, such a price would be considered the highest standard of food. Now, they were going to spend that amount of money just on the ingredients? The chef standing in the middle asked, "Mr. Lin, does the 100,000 yuan include alcohol?" Lin Fan shook his head and said, "Alcohol isn't included." After the three chefs received Lin Fan's approval, they did not hesitate any longer and walked into Big Pot Vegetable Market. Squab, shrimp, top-grade wagyu, suckling pork, goat meat, organic tomatoes, space pepper. The three chefs had never personally bought these ingredients before, so they really had a good time today. While they were choosing the ingredients, Lin Fan had also chosen the wine and drinks. In the end, the total cost was 4 million yuan. Lin Fan did not hesitate at all. He immediately paid with his card. Instantly, a crisp notification sound rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding! You've spent 4 million yuan this time. Do you want to use the 10x interest card? Lin Fan chose confirm. Not long after, his phone vibrated. Notice from Merchant Bank, 40 million yuan was deposited into your account. Lin Fan looked at the large number of high-grade ingredients and alcohol that were being moved into the truck. He had a strange expression on his face. Not only did he not spend money, but he also earned money? Lin Fan took advantage of the time when he was moving the ingredients and found a place with no one around. He took out his phone and looked at the 1,050 red packets on the screen. Lin Fan bought furniture, completed the feasting mission, and spent a total of 6.5 million yuan. For every 10,000 yuan spent, he could open a red packet. However, Lin Fan planned to open all 1,000 red packets at the same time. Hence, he had not touched the red packets. Today, he spent another 4 million yuan, making it a total of 10.5 million yuan, which was just more than 1,000 red packets. 1,050 red packets. Let's see what I can get, Lin Fan mumbled. Open all of them. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 2 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 1,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received a jade chess set. It's transparent, warm, and soft. It's extraordinary. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 4 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received a 10x spending return card. The better the spending, the better the harvest. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've obtained 51% of Shaowu's wholesale city shares. It's one of the largest wholesale markets in Hua Nation. The items are cheap and of good quality. Ding. Congratulations, you've obtained a skill doubling card. It's able to double the ability of a specific skill for an hour. With more powerful skills, you can display more charm. Ding. Congratulations, you've obtained expert hacking skills. You understand the network structure, can solve network problems, and can display extraordinary charm. From the 1,050 red packets, Lin Fan received a total of 1.02 million yuan, a 10x spending return card, 51% shares of Xiaowu's wholesale city, a doubling skill card, expert hacking skills, and other things. It could definitely be considered a great harvest. Lin Fan could not help but smile. Not a bad harvest. When he raised his head, he saw a crystal-clear chest set in front of him. He muttered, "I was planning to go to the jewelry store to buy grandfather a birthday gift, but it seems like there's no need for that now." By then, all the ingredients had been moved into the truck. Lin Fan drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class and led the way. The truck followed behind him and headed straight to his hometown in Qing City. In the capital, the Zhou family's courtyard was filled with trees and flowers that were in full bloom. The Zhou family's old master, Zhou Guotao, sipped his tea and played with the parrot. He was very pleased. At this time last year, Zhou Guotao was bedridden. His body was still very weak, and he could not be this relaxed. Now, the only reason he was able to do so was that Lin Fan had fed him medical water. Not only did the medical water save Zhou Guotao from the gates of hell, but it also cured many of his illnesses. At this moment, the second son of the Zhou family, Zhou Shihong, walked over and said, "Old man, there's some news from Jiang province." "Oh? Let me see," Zhou Guotao said. Zhou Shihong handed over a stack of documents. Zhou Guotao slowly opened it. His old face, which was as calm as an ancient well, moved slightly at first, then revealed a look of surprise that could not be concealed. He solved 2 difficult math problems but didn't report it. Then, he saved Qin Weiming's grandson. "Lin Fan, you're even more amazing than I thought." Zhou Shihong, who was standing beside him, was greatly shocked. One had to know that the reason why the Zhou family had become a top family was all due to Old Master Zhou's efforts. Old Master Zhou had seen countless talents in his life, and his vision was definitely higher than the sky. Now, he had such a high evaluation of a young man in his 20s. It was simply unimaginable. In the past, I thought that I should slowly get closer to Lin Fan. But now, it doesn't seem appropriate. Zhou Guotao muttered. Lin Fan's grandfather is going to celebrate his 70th birthday in 2 days, right? At that moment, Zhou Shihong was still immersed in the old man's evaluation of Lin Fan. He was unable to extricate himself. "Yes," he responded after a while. Zhou Guotao nodded his head and said, "Lin Fan saved my life. It's only right for me to personally pay a visit to his grandfather to celebrate his birthday with him." As soon as he said that, Zhou Shihong, who was standing at the side, felt as if a storm had been set off in his heart. He was extremely shocked. One had to know. The Zhou family was one of the most powerful families in Hua Nation, and Old Master Zhou was the head of the Zhou family. All these years, Old Master Zhou rarely appeared at top-notch banquets, let alone attended birthday parties. Now, he was going to personally go to the village of Qing City to celebrate Lin Fan's grandfather's birthday? It was only his 70th birthday too? One had to know that Old Master Zhou himself was already close to 80 years old. Qing City, Shanwu Village. More than a decade ago, there was only a very narrow path that could lead to Shanwu Village. Even if it was just a small car, it would be very difficult to pass through. Of course, there were no small cars in Shanwu Village at that time. Every time it rained, the path would turn into a mud pit, making it impossible to walk on. More than 10 years had passed, and 2 broad cement roads had been built in Shanwu Village. Many people had already started driving small cars. This morning, in a small house in the middle of the village, Lin Tao, Dai Weishue, and Lin Xiaoyao split up the work. They either wiped the tables, boiled water, pasted the word longevity on things, or hung lanterns. They were very busy. It was obvious that this was Lin Fan's hometown. It was also the place where he had lived before he turned 12. Lin Xiaoyao said, "Dad, the word longevity doesn't look right. Turn it a little to the left." "Yes, yes." Not long after, the whole house was covered with the word longevity and hung up with red lanterns, making it look very festive. Lin Xiaoyao took out her phone and took a few photos, her face full of smiles. It was obvious that she was very satisfied with her masterpiece. Lil Fan said that he'll be in charge of the ingredients and the chef. Why isn't he back yet? He can't be too late, Dai Weishua said worriedly. That's right, Lin Tao said. Lin Xiaoyao relaxed. Dad, Mom, don't worry. Since brother said he'll take responsibility, there won't be any problems. When the morning sun shone through the cracks in the trees, a sound came from the distance. Then, a huge Mercedes-Benz G-Class and a truck drove over slowly. Lin Xiaoyao said happily, "Look, he's back." The distance between Zhangbei City and Shanwu Village in Qing City was not far. However, Lin Fan needed to buy some things. In addition, he also had to arrange for the chef's accommodation. Therefore, he did not come to Shanwu Village last night. Brother, what's with that truck behind you? Lin Xiaoyao walked over and asked. Lin Fan replied, "It's carrying the ingredients for the birthday banquet." At this time, the three chefs slowly moved all kinds of ingredients down. Lin Tao followed to help and said, "We'll be cooking outside today." After all, according to the plan, there were more than 20 tables today. If they were to cook in the kitchen at home, it would be too crowded. An old man with white hair and a thin body but a straight back walked out. When Lin Fan saw the old man, his heart trembled as he shouted excitedly, "Grandpa!" This old man was Lin Fan's grandfather, Lin Liqiang. In Lin Fan's memory, his grandfather often wore a military green coat or a white short-sleeved shirt. Today, he had changed into a white shirt and looked radiant. Lin Liqiang nodded at Lin Fan and said, "Lil Fan, you're back?" His voice was very deep, unlike the loving tone of an ordinary old man. However, Lin Fan knew that it was not because his grandfather did not love him. It was because his grandfather had always been cold on the outside but warm on the inside. On one hand, it was because of his personality. On the other hand, it was a habit formed when he was a soldier. "That's right, Grandpa. Is your body okay?" Lin Fan said. "I'm fine," Lin Liqiang said. At this moment, a slightly hoarse voice came from the room. "Is Lil Fan back?" Then, Lin Fan's short-haired grandma, Zhang Guidan, who was wearing a plaid shirt, walked out. "Grandma!" Lin Fan shouted excitedly. "Let me see how my Lil Fan is doing." As Zhang Guidan spoke, she touched Lin Fan's head and pinched his arm. Then, she happily nodded and said, "Lil Fan is stronger than before." Unlike his grandfather's imposing manner and his character which was cold on the outside but warm on the inside, his grandmother was kind. She was warm on the outside and also on the inside. "Grandma, how are you feeling?" Lin Fan asked. "Your grandfather and I eat 3 meals a day. We eat a big bowl of rice for each meal. We're in good health." Zhang Guidan smiled happily. When Lin Fan heard this, he was extremely happy. However, with a slight thought, he still spent 20 million to buy 2 bottles of medical water from the system. "Grandpa, Grandma, try this," said Lin Fan as he passed the medical water over. "What's this?" asked Zhang Guidan. "It's a drink. I heard that it also has some health benefits," Lin Fan said. "Oh, really? Then I'll have to try it." Zhang Guidan laughed. When Lin Liqiang heard this, he did not ask much and directly poured it into his mouth. Lin Fan saw that Grandpa and Grandma had drunk it all and felt a little more at ease. He remembered that his grandparents had arthritis, and they would feel very uncomfortable every winter. Now that they had drunk the medical water, he believed that it would not be like this in the future. Then, Lin Fan took out the jade chess set and said, "Grandpa, I wish you good fortune and longevity." Lin Liqiang said, "Lil Fan, you're so considerate." Zhang Guidan sighed. "What a beautiful chess set. Your grandpa has wanted to change to another set of chess for a long time." Today, he has finally gotten what he wanted. The relatives aren't here yet, so there's nothing much to do. Lil Fan, why don't you play with your grandpa with this new chess set? Lin Liqiang pointed to the door and said, let's go, Lil Fan. We'll play chess there. Lin Liqiang was not like the average old man who liked to play mahjong. When he had nothing to do, he liked to play Go. Now that he had obtained a chess set like this, he immediately became interested. Lin Fan naturally would not reject him. All right, he said. The two of them had just arrived at the gate. At this time, the three chefs had already arranged all the ingredients neatly. Then, they quickly washed and prepared them. The light that came from their blades was like a shadow, extremely swift. Lin Xiaoyao had never seen anyone cook like this before. It was as if she had just seen legendary saber experts. She was completely stunned. Lin Liqiang could not help but look in the direction of the kitchen. He nodded and said, "What great cooking skills." Then, he sat down and placed the chess set down. However, before the two of them could start playing chess, a series of footsteps came from outside the corridor. A group of people walked in. They had gifts in their hands, and their faces were full of smiles. "Grandpa, I wish you good health. Old man, I wish you a long life." Among these people were Lin Fan's uncles and aunties, who were all relatives. With their relatives here, it was naturally not good to continue playing chess. Thus, Lin Liqiang stood up and smiled, "Sorry to trouble you to come all the way here. Old man, you're being too polite." "Yup. We should be here." All the relatives answered. Lin Tao, Dai Weishue, and Zhang Guidan, as the hosts, rushed forward to accept the gifts. "You've traveled far," they said with concern. "Quickly sit down and drink some water." According to the rules of Qing City, when relatives arrived, they had to set off firecrackers. Firstly, it was to show respect to the relatives and welcome them. Secondly, it was to inform the villagers that their family was going to hold a happy event. However, before Lin Tao could light the firecrackers, a series of crackling sounds could be heard from the west side of the village. Lin Tao's body could not help but freeze. In fact, Lin Tao was not the only one who was stunned. Dai Weishue, Lin Liqiang, Zhang Guidan, and the others all looked toward the west of the village with doubtful eyes. According to Shanwu Village's rules, except for New Year's, festivals, and wedding events, firecrackers were not usually set off. Today was obviously not a holiday. In addition, they did not seem to have heard of anyone's family holding a wedding. When Lin Xiaoyao saw that her father was going to set off firecrackers, she had already stood far away and covered her ears. At this moment, she saw her father stop and could not help but call out, "Dad, are you still going to light up the firecrackers?" "Yes, of course." After Lin Tao finished speaking, he lit a cigarette and put it in front of the fuse. The loud sound of firecrackers rang through the entire Shanwu village. The red remnants of the firecrackers scattered in all directions, making the scene even more lively and festive. All the relatives greeted each other, and the atmosphere was very good. Not long after, a round-faced man slowly walked over while carrying a table. When he saw Lin Fan, his face revealed a look of surprise and joy. "Lil Fan? When did you come back? Why didn't you tell me?" This man was called Qizingyi, and he lived behind Lin Fan's old house. They were of the same age. Since Shanwu village only had one primary school, there was only one class for each grade. Therefore, Lin Fan and Qizingyi had always been classmates. They studied together in class and played together after school. They were very good friends. "I just arrived," Lin Fan said. At this moment, Dai Weishue walked over and said, "Lily, it's been hard on you. I asked to borrow your table and even had you move it over." Usually, when a family held a wedding in Shanwu village, they would invite their friends and family, as well as everyone in the village, to have a meal and hold a banquet. Normally, there would be more than 100 people, including relatives, friends, and villagers. They would need to use at least 10 tables. Naturally, there were not that many tables for the party. Therefore, the villagers of Shanwu village would take the initiative to lend out their tables and chairs. "Aunt, you're being too polite," Chizingyi said. "Lily, I heard people setting off firecrackers on the west side of the village. Which family is having a wedding today?" Lin Tao asked. "It's Wang Xiaodong's family. I don't know what's going on with his family, but he suddenly said yesterday afternoon that his grandfather is also having his 70th birthday today," Shi Xingyi said. With that, Lin Tao, Dai Weishue, Lin Liqiang, and Zhang Guidan's faces all turned ugly. This was definitely done on purpose. Wang Xiaodong's grandfather was called Wang Yaping. The fields of the Wang family and the Lin family were connected. It had rained heavily one year, and the fields were filled with water. Lin Fan's grandfather, Lin Liqiang, was worried that the crops would drown, so he used a hoe to dig a ditch along the fields of the two families to make the water flow away faster. It was this ditch that had caused the Wang and Lin families to be at odds for decades. This was because Wang Yaping felt that Lin Liqiang had crossed the line by taking his own land as Lin Liqiang's property. Thus, he often gossiped in the village. Lin Liqiang, on the other hand, thought that he had done a good thing, but he was misunderstood and framed. He was extremely angry and directly argued with Wang Yaping. The two families had been quarreling non-stop and had been hostile to each other until now. Later, someone in Lin Liqiang's family gave birth to a grandson, so Wang Yaping also wanted a grandson. Lin Liqiang's family bought a house outside, so Wang Yaping also bought one. The overt and covert battles had never stopped. In the beginning, it was indeed over some farmland. However, as time passed, it was not just about the fields, it was about dignity. Lin Liqiang had already told the village that today was his 70th birthday banquet. Yesterday afternoon, Wang Yaping informed the village that he was also having his 70th birthday banquet today. Was Wang Yaping not clearly opposing him? The birthday banquets of the two families were held at the same time. Where should the villagers go? Wang Yaping was asking them to make a choice. According to Shanwu village's rules, they would choose the family with the higher status. If there were two families holding a wedding, unless the villagers had a particularly good relationship with the family, they would usually choose to go to the family with a higher status to congratulate them. It was considered a welcome and respect for the VIP. Lin Liqiang's family did not have any relatives or friends with particularly high status. Wang Yaping had a son who was said to be the general manager of a company in Qing City. He also had a nephew who was a leader in the education world of Qing City. It was clear which family had relatives and friends of high status. A person only had one's 70th birthday in their life. It would be too embarrassing if no one came to offer their congratulations today. At this time, tall and cool cars were driving to the west of the village. Then, the crackling of firecrackers immediately rang out. The villagers of Shanwu village had obviously noticed the commotion as well, and they all rushed to the west of the village. At this time, in front of Wang Yaping's house, there were 6 or 7 luxury cars, including Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and so on. It was very extravagant. The entire ground was covered in the remnants of the firecrackers, and it looked as if a red carpet had been laid out. Many villagers were carrying tables and walking toward Wang Yaping's house. "Uncle Li, thank you for coming to the birthday banquet. Uncle Zhang, I've really troubled you. You even brought a table and a bench. Quickly sit down and have some tea." The entire place was as lively as a market. Wang Yaping was wearing a tang suit today, and his hair was dyed black. However, the wrinkles on his face and his hunched back could not hide his age. The birthday star is here. Greetings. I wish you longevity and good health. When everyone saw Wang Yaping walk out, they all greeted him. Thank you, everyone, for coming to my birthday banquet. Wang Yaping laughed. Wang Yaping looked at the villagers in front of the door with a smile on his old face. It truly was a happy birthday. At the same time, he was even happier to be able to compete with Lin Liqiang. Compared to the lively scene at Wang Yaping's house, Lin Liqiang's house seemed a little deserted. Only a few villagers who had good relationships with him came over with tables and chairs. There were only a few tables scattered in front of the empty house. Without a large number of villagers, the few tables and chairs were enough. Lin Liqiang did not have any intention of blaming the villagers for their choice. After all, it had always been a tradition of the Shanwu village to respect their guests. However, after all, this was his birthday banquet, but it was so deserted now. He could not help but feel a little unhappy. Qi Xingyi also seemed to feel that the atmosphere was a little off. He complained, Wang Xiaodong's family is too underhanded. They even want to mess up such a happy event. They just have a few powerful relatives, no? When Lil Fan becomes a big boss and holds a wedding, let's see what Wang Xiaodong's family will do. Lin Fan patted Qi Xingyi's shoulder and said, perhaps we don't have to wait for the future. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of cars roaring could be heard at the village entrance. Then, 1, 2, 3. A black mass of luxury cars drove over from the distance. Finally, they stopped right in front of Lin Fan.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and see you in the next chapter.